Story 1. Your success means nothing. Tyler's the only son who matters, my mom snarled after skipping my business graduation to fund his failing agency. Then watch me cut you out forever, I said. But what came next? Left their golden boy in ashes. All right, buckle up because this story is absolutely wild, and I'm still processing everything that went down. My name's Adam, I'm 29, and I just became a multimillionaire through real estate investments. But before I get to the good part, where my family gets what's coming to them, you need to understand the complete disaster I grew up in. This is going to be long, but I promise it's worth every word. Grab some coffee and settle in. My mom, Jessica, is a textbook gold digger who married my dad when she was 23, and he was 36 with a decent plumbing business. She's one of those women who thinks her looks entitle her to everything without working for it. Blonde, fake everything, drives a BMW she can't afford, and has never worked a real job in her life. She's also dumber than a box of rocks, but thinks she's brilliant because she managed to trap my dad. My dad, Richard, used to be a solid guy. Built his plumbing company from nothing. Worked with his hands. Real blue-collar mentality. But 27 years of my mom's nonsense turned him into this spineless doormat who just nods along with whatever she says to avoid drama. Then there's my younger brother, Tyler, who's 26 and the biggest waste of space you've ever seen. This dude has had everything handed to him his entire life. While I was working plumbing jobs with Dad during summers starting at 15, Tyler was getting $400 weekly allowances and taking networking meetings at expensive restaurants. Let me paint you a picture of how bad the favoritism was. When I was 10 and Tyler was 8, I broke my arm falling off my bike. My parents took me to the emergency room, got me patched up, and that was it. When Tyler scraped his knee falling off the same bike 2 weeks later, they took him to 3 different doctors to make sure there wasn't any underlying damage. Bought him a new bike with training wheels, even though he was 8, and my mom posted about her brave little warrior on Facebook for a week. When I was 12, I got straight A's on my report card. My reward was a handshake and good job. When Tyler brought home a C+ in art class at age 10, they hung his finger painting on the refrigerator and took him to Chuck E. Cheese to celebrate his artistic achievement. The favoritism was insane from day one. When I graduated high school with a 3.9 GPA and multiple scholarship offers, they bought me a used Honda Civic with 180,000 miles on it and told me I was lucky to get that. When Tyler graduated 2 years later with a 2.7 GPA and no prospects, they leased him a brand new Mustang GT because he needed motivation to succeed. When I got accepted to State University for business, they said, "Hope the financial aid works out," and made me fill out every form myself. When Tyler decided he wanted to study marketing at a private college that cost $55,000 a year, they took out a second mortgage without blinking and hired someone to help him with his application essays. But here's where it gets really messed up. Tyler dropped out junior year to start a social media consulting agency, which was basically him taking photos of his friends' cars and posting them on Instagram for $150 a month. Meanwhile, I'm working my tail off studying real estate finance, working part-time at Home Depot, eating ramen every night, and they act like I'm the family disappointment. Every family dinner, every phone call, every conversation somehow became about Tyler's latest business venture or networking opportunity. I'd try to share news about making Dean's List or getting promoted at work, and within 30 seconds the conversation would shift to Tyler's exciting opportunities or his innovative marketing strategies. When I was 22 and landed my first real estate internship, I excitedly called home to share the news. My mom's response? "That's nice, honey." "Oh, did I tell you Tyler got invited to some entrepreneur meetup?" He's really making connections in the business world. When Tyler was 23 and his business made its first $500 month, you would have thought he'd cured cancer. My parents threw him a celebration dinner at the fanciest restaurant in town, invited extended family, and my dad gave a toast about Tyler's entrepreneurial spirit and bright future. Meanwhile, when I graduated with honors and secured a $52,000 starting salary, I got a text that said, "Congrats! Can't wait to hear about Tyler's new client presentation next week." Every Christmas, every birthday, every family gathering followed the same pattern. Tyler would get expensive, thoughtful gifts that showed they'd been paying attention to his interests. I'd get generic gift cards and clothes that were clearly last-minute purchases. My achievements barely got a "that's nice, honey," before the conversation pivoted back to whatever Tyler was pretending to accomplish that week. It was like living in a house where one son mattered and the other was just there to fill space. Tyler's business was the biggest joke ever, but my parents treated him like he was the next Mark Cuban. This kid convinced them to fund what was essentially an expensive hobby, disguised as entrepreneurship. Let me break down the insanity. First, he convinced them to pay $12,000 for a professional website that looked like it was made in 2003. The developer was some kid Tyler met at a coffee shop who charged premium prices for basic WordPress templates. The site had exactly 4 pages: home, about, services, and contact. The services page literally just said, social media solutions for modern businesses, with no actual explanation of what he did. Then came the $18,000 camera setup for content creation. We're talking professional-grade equipment that actual photographers would use for weddings and commercial shoots. Tyler used it to take pictures of his friends' cars in parking lots. The majority of his content was blurry iPhone photos anyway, but he convinced my parents that investing in quality equipment shows clients you're serious. The downtown loft apartment was the crown jewel of his delusion. $2,400 per month for a trendy space in the arts district because he needed to project success to attract high-end clients. The apartment had exposed brick walls, industrial lighting, and a creative workspace that was just a desk from IKEA with some motivational posters. Tyler would bring potential clients there for strategy sessions, which were basically him showing off his expensive setup while having no actual strategy to discuss. The Tesla Model 3 lease was justified because image is everything in social media marketing. Tyler claimed that pulling up to client meetings in a luxury car showed he was successful and trustworthy. Never mind that most of his clients were small local businesses that couldn't care less what car he drove. The Tesla cost $650 per month plus insurance, and Tyler convinced my parents it was a business expense. But the real kicker was how much they spent sending him to business conferences and networking events. These were basically weekend parties in different cities where wannabe entrepreneurs paid $500 to attend motivational seminars and exchange business cards. Tyler went to events in Austin, Nashville, Miami, and Las Vegas, all on my parents' dime. Each trip cost between $2,000 and $3,500 when you included flights, hotels, conference fees, and Tyler's networking dinners at expensive restaurants. In 4 years of operation, Tyler's highest monthly revenue was $1,200, and that was only because he temporarily landed a local car dealership that paid him to post photos of their inventory. He lost that client after 3 months when they realized they could post their own photos for free. His typical monthly income was closer to $300, but his expenses were roughly $6,000 per month when you included everything my parents were covering. The most ridiculous part was listening to my family talk about Tyler's business at dinners. My mom would brag to relatives about her entrepreneur son and his innovative marketing strategies. My dad would nod along and talk about Tyler's vision and how he was disrupting the traditional marketing space. They genuinely believed Tyler was building the next big thing. Meanwhile, I graduated summa cum laude with a business degree, got hired at a commercial real estate firm for $52,000, and you know what my mom said? "That's nice, honey. But did you see Tyler just got featured in that entrepreneur blog?" The feature was a 200-word blurb in some random startup website that let anyone submit their own profile for $50. I started learning everything I could about real estate investing on my own time. Spent every weekend at property auctions, read every book I could find, watched YouTube videos until 2 a.m. I was determined to build something real while Tyler was playing pretend businessman with my parents' money. The absolute breaking point was my college graduation. I had worked my butt off for 4 years, graduated top 5% of my class with a 3.87 GPA, already had a job lined up at a respected firm, and I specifically bought them 3 tickets to the ceremony months in advance. I even called them the week before to confirm and sent them the parking information and ceremony schedule. Day of graduation, I'm sitting in the staging area with my cap and gown on, getting ready to walk across that stage with my fellow business school graduates, when I get a text from my mom at 10:47 a.m. "Can't make it today, sweetie. Tyler's meeting with a potential investor who flew in from Denver. This could be the opportunity he's been working toward. We'll celebrate your graduation later, promise. So proud of both our successful boys. XOXO. I just stared at that message. This investor was probably another wannabe entrepreneur Tyler met at one of his networking events, but my parents treated it like he was meeting with Warren Buffett. They chose Tyler's pipe dream over my actual tangible achievement. I looked around that auditorium and saw all these families cheering for their kids, taking photos, bringing flowers, crying happy tears. The 3 seats I'd reserved in the front section were completely empty. I felt like such a loser standing there in my cap and gown, with nobody to share the biggest moment of my academic life. When they called my name and I walked across that stage to receive my diploma, I heard applause from strangers and felt completely alone. The dean shook my hand and said, "Congratulations, Mr. Peterson. Your professors speak very highly of your work." I smiled and thanked him, but inside I was devastated. After the ceremony, I stood outside the auditorium, watching other graduates hug their families and take pictures. I got in my Honda Civic and drove home alone, my diploma sitting in the passenger seat, like a participation trophy nobody cared about. After graduation, I basically went low contact with my family. Started working 65-hour weeks, learned everything I could about real estate markets, and poured every dollar into my first investment property. While Tyler was posting Instagram stories about his entrepreneur lifestyle, I was sleeping on an air mattress and studying market trends until 3 a.m. every night. Here's something nobody talks about. When you cut toxic people out of your life, even family, you suddenly have so much more mental energy to focus on your goals. I wasn't constantly stressed about their drama or trying to prove myself to people who didn't give a darn about my success. My first property was a complete disaster, a duplex in a neighborhood that was up and coming, according to the real estate agent, but was actually just run down. I paid $85,000 for it, which cleaned out my savings and required me to get a hard money loan at 12% interest for the remaining $15,000. The place needed $25,000 in repairs I couldn't afford. New roof, updated plumbing, electrical work, flooring replacement, and a complete kitchen renovation. I learned to do most of the work myself out of necessity. Spent my weekends watching YouTube videos about installing laminate flooring, fixing leaky pipes, and replacing light fixtures. My dad's old contractor friends took pity on me and taught me the basics of drywall repair and tile installation in exchange for helping them on their own projects. The first tenant was a nightmare. Single mom with 3 kids who seemed nice during the showing, but turned out to be a hoarder. She lived there for 8 months, stopped paying rent after month 4, and when I finally got her evicted, she left the place destroyed. I spent another $8,000 getting it back to rentable condition, but I was learning valuable lessons about screening tenants, property management, and cash flow analysis. It took me 8 months to get the duplex stabilized, but when I did, I was making $400 per month in positive cash flow after all expenses. That $400 became my seed money for property number 2. Meanwhile, my family was still obsessing over Tyler's business. During the few times I visited, every conversation was about his latest client prospects or networking opportunities. When I mentioned I had bought an investment property, my mom's response was, "That's nice, dear. Did we tell you Tyler's thinking about expanding into video marketing? He's looking at some really expensive equipment." Property number 2 was a single-family house that needed cosmetic work, but was structurally sound. I'd learned from my mistakes on the duplex and was much more conservative with my estimates. The house cost $68,000, needed about $12,000 in updates, and cash flowed $350 per month when finished. That's when I discovered the magic of what real estate investors call the BRRRR strategy: buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. Once I had both properties stabilized and rented, I could refinance them based on their improved values and pull out most of my original investment to buy the next property. Property 3 was where I really started to understand the business. I found a foreclosure that banks had been sitting on for 8 months. The house was solid, but looked terrible because the previous owners had stripped out all the copper pipes and appliances before losing it. I got it for $52,000, put $18,000 into making it rentable, and it appraised for $89,000 when finished. After refinancing, I pulled out $71,000, which meant I had less than $5,000 of my own money tied up in a property that cash flowed $425 per month. The real estate firm I worked for got bought out by a national company when I was 25. My commission structure improved dramatically because the new company had access to commercial deals and high-end residential properties. I started making serious money. Some months I'd close $200,000 in sales and earn $6,000 in commissions. But instead of upgrading my lifestyle like most people do when their income increases, I kept living like a broke college student and invested every extra dollar into more properties. Same ratty Honda with 220,000 miles, same one-bedroom apartment with mismatched furniture, eating peanut butter sandwiches for lunch because they cost 50 cents each. By the time I turned 27, I owned 12 rental units across 3 different neighborhoods. I was clearing about $3,800 per month in rental income on top of my salary, but I kept it quiet and let my family keep thinking I was just some basic real estate agent making modest commissions. Properties 4 through 12 were where I really hit my stride. I'd developed relationships with contractors who gave me good prices, knew which neighborhoods were about to gentrify, and could spot a good deal from across the street. I was buying properties for 60 to 70 cents on the dollar, putting minimal money into them, and refinancing out 90% of my investment. My personal favorite was property number 8, a triplex that had been vacant for 2 years because it needed a new roof, and the owner didn't want to deal with it. I got it for $95,000, put $22,000 into it, including the roof replacement, and it appraised for $165,000. After refinancing, I pulled out $148,500, which meant I actually made money buying the property. It cash flowed $1,200 per month once all 3 units were rented. But here's the crazy part. My family still had no idea what I was actually accomplishing. During one of our rare family dinners, I casually mentioned that I owned several investment properties. My dad's response? Well, just make sure you're not overextending yourself. Real estate is risky. Then he immediately pivoted to talking about Tyler's exciting new partnership opportunity with some other fake entrepreneur. The best part? Tyler's business completely collapsed during the pandemic because small businesses stopped paying for social media services. Suddenly, Mr. Entrepreneur was back to living with mommy and daddy, but they still acted like he was some genius who just hit a rough patch. During lockdown, Tyler started 3 different businesses: a meal delivery service that lasted 6 weeks, a dog walking app that never got past the PowerPoint stage, and something called Virtual Networking Solutions. That was essentially him trying to charge people $50 to join Zoom calls where they could network with other entrepreneurs. All 3 ventures failed spectacularly, but my parents kept funding them and making excuses. Tyler's just figuring out the right opportunity, my mom would say. The pandemic was bad timing for his marketing business, but he's adapting. Meanwhile, the pandemic was the best thing that ever happened to my real estate portfolio. Interest rates dropped to historic lows, so I refinanced every property and pulled out even more equity. Rent collection actually improved because my tenants qualified for various assistance programs that paid their rent directly to landlords. Last year, I hit my first million in net worth. Not just on paper, actual equity I could borrow against, plus cash in the bank. At 28 years old, I had more wealth than my parents had accumulated in 30 years of marriage. But I still kept quiet because I was having too much fun watching Tyler struggle while my parents continued enabling him. Then our local business journal decided to do a feature on young real estate moguls under 30, and somehow my name ended up on their list. The article was huge, talked about my investment strategy, my background, even mentioned how I overcame early financial challenges to build my portfolio. They estimated my net worth at $1.8 million, which was actually conservative since they didn't know about all my properties. The article included a photo of me standing in front of one of my renovated properties, and they listed out my entire investment timeline. It was impossible to deny that I had built something substantial. I didn't tell my family about the article, but apparently someone from my dad's old work crew saw it and sent it to him. Within 48 hours, my phone was blowing up with messages I'd been ignoring for months. First was my dad. Adam, saw the article in the business journal. We need to talk. Then Tyler. Bro, what the heck? Why didn't you tell us you were rich? Finally, my mom. Honey, call me ASAP. This is amazing news for our family. Notice how suddenly I'm part of our family again? I ignored all their calls for 2 weeks just to watch them squirm. I could see my mom was stalking my social media because she started liking photos from 3 years ago. The desperation was beautiful. When I finally answered my dad's call, the conversation was absolutely hilarious. He was stuttering and stumbling over his words, clearly reading from notes my mom had written for him. Son, we're so proud of what you've accomplished. Your mother and I always knew you were destined for great things. Really? I said. Because I distinctly remember you calling real estate a young man's game and asking when I was going to get a stable job with benefits. Long pause. Then, we want to have dinner. Celebrate your success properly. I agreed to meet them at this fancy steakhouse downtown, the kind of place they would never normally go because entrees start at $45. Watching them try to act comfortable in that environment was worth the price of admission. My mom showed up dressed like she was going to a movie premiere. Tight dress, full makeup, jewelry I'd never seen before. She immediately started with this fake proud mom routine. Adam, sweetheart, I've been bragging about you to all my friends. I always knew you'd be successful in real estate. Funny, I said, because 2 years ago you told me I should quit playing with houses and get a real job with a pension like government work. She got flustered and tried to change the subject. Well, we're here now, and we want to be part of your journey going forward. That's when Tyler jumped in with the real reason they wanted to meet. Bro, I've been thinking, you know a lot about business now, and I've got this new idea that could really take off. Maybe we could partner up. I almost choked on my water. What happened to your social media agency? The pandemic killed it, he said, not even embarrassed. But I've learned so much from that experience. Now I'm thinking about getting into real estate myself. You could teach me the ropes. These people had ignored me for years, missed my graduation, treated me like garbage, and now they wanted to be partners. The audacity was breathtaking. I played along for the rest of dinner, letting them pitch their various schemes and business ideas. Tyler had prepared what he called a partnership proposal on his laptop. It was 3 slides about how we could leverage our combined expertise to dominate the real estate market. The proposal basically boiled down to, I provide all the money and knowledge, Tyler provides his marketing expertise and people skills, and we split profits 50-50. I nodded thoughtfully and told them I'd consider their proposals. Over the next month, the truth started coming out through multiple conversations and some discreet investigating I did on my own. Turns out my family was in deep financial trouble. Dad's plumbing business was failing because my mom convinced him to take out business loans to fund Tyler's lifestyle instead of buying new equipment. They owed $165,000 on the house, $38,000 in credit card debt, and $52,000 on Tyler's Tesla lease and apartment. My mom's spending habits had completely spiraled. She was dropping $1,800 a month on clothes, beauty treatments, and lunches with her equally shallow friends. Tyler hadn't contributed to any household expenses in 8 months and was basically a financial dependent at 26. The really pathetic part was how they started showing up at my apartment unannounced, bringing home-cooked meals and trying to act like caring family members. My mom would call with investment opportunities she heard about from her hairdresser. Tyler kept sending me business plans that looked like they were written by a 7th grader. Tyler's latest scheme was particularly ridiculous. He wanted to start a real estate influencer Instagram account, where he would post about properties I was buying and selling. His pitch was that he could build our brand and attract investors through social media. In exchange for posting photos and writing captions, he wanted a $60,000 annual salary plus 10% of all profits. But the real wake-up call came when my dad showed up at my office looking like he hadn't slept in weeks. My assistant tried to turn him away, but I agreed to see him. Adam, I need to be straight with you. We're about to lose everything. The business is finished. Your mother, she doesn't understand how bad things really are. Finally, some honesty, but it was way too little. Too late. Dad, where was this honesty when you chose Tyler's fake business over my graduation? Where was your concern when Mom was calling my career playing with houses? He had no answer. Just sat there looking defeated while I continued. I worked construction with you for 3 summers. I learned the value of hard work from watching you build your business. But when I tried to build something myself, you treated it like a hobby while funding Tyler's delusions. He nodded slowly. We messed up. We know that now. But you're the only one who can help us. Here's where the story gets really satisfying. Instead of helping them, I decided to let them dig their own graves deeper while I enjoyed the show. I started flaunting my wealth just enough to drive them crazy. Bought a Porsche Macan S and parked it in their driveway when I visited. The neighbors definitely noticed, and I could see my mom's embarrassment when she had to explain that her disappointment son owned a $75,000 car while her successful entrepreneur son was unemployed. I wore a $15,000 Rolex to family dinners and made sure to check it frequently when Tyler was talking about his latest business ideas. When my mom asked about it, I casually mentioned it was just a little reward for closing a big deal. Watching Tyler's face when he realized my watch cost more than his annual income was priceless. I also started bringing dates to family events. Successful, educated women who made Tyler look even more pathetic by comparison. My mom would fawn over these women, clearly hoping they'd become permanent fixtures who might influence me to help the family. One dinner guest was a commercial real estate attorney I was seeing. When Tyler started his usual spiel about disrupting the marketing space, she politely listened for about 30 seconds before saying, "That's interesting. Have you considered the liability implications of your business structure?" Tyler had no idea what she was talking about and just mumbled something about still figuring out the legal stuff. My mom's behavior became increasingly desperate. She started dressing up every time she thought she might see me, bringing me elaborate home-cooked meals, first time she'd cooked for me in years, and suddenly taking interest in everything I did. She'd call with random questions about my day, my work, my friends, anything to stay connected. Adam, honey, I was thinking maybe you could teach Tyler about real estate. You two could work together like a real family business. Mom, Tyler can barely manage his own checking account. Why would I trust him with real money and actual clients? Tyler's reaction was even better. This kid who used to talk down to me about real business was now practically begging for scraps. He offered to be my assistant for $45,000 a year, claiming his marketing expertise would help me build my brand. When I laughed at that, he came back with $35,000, then $25,000. He even offered to work for free for 6 months to prove himself and learn the business from someone who really knows what they're doing. The desperation was intoxicating. I started getting calls from extended family members who had heard about my success. My aunt called to catch up and mentioned how proud my parents were of me, then casually brought up her son's college tuition struggles. My cousin reached out about a business opportunity that conveniently required a $50,000 investment for some multi-level marketing scheme. Even my mom's sister, who had barely spoken to me in 10 years, suddenly wanted to reconnect and mentioned her upcoming divorce and financial difficulties. The really pathetic part was watching my parents' friends treat them differently. At church, at neighborhood gatherings, everywhere they went, people would ask about their successful son, the real estate investor, while Tyler stood there like a piece of furniture. My dad started bringing copies of the Business Journal article to show people, clearly desperate to bask in reflected glory. But the absolute best moment came 6 weeks ago. My mom called crying. Actual tears, not the fake manipulation she usually pulled. Adam, we got the foreclosure notice. We have 45 days. Your father's too proud to ask, but we need $180,000 to save the house and business. You're our only hope. I let her finish her complete sob story. She went on for 15 minutes about how sorry they were, how much they loved me, how they'd always believed in me deep down, but just didn't know how to show it. She promised things would be different, that Tyler would get a real job, that they'd never take my success for granted again. She offered me equity in the house, promised to pay back the money with interest, said Tyler would work for me for free, anything I wanted. The desperation in her voice was intoxicating. Then I said something that felt better than any business deal I'd ever closed. Mom, remember my graduation? When you said Tyler's investor meeting was more important? Remember when you told me to get a stable government job instead of playing with houses? Remember when you called me the family disappointment? That was different. We were just trying to... No, it wasn't different. You made your choice. Tyler was your investment. I was the backup plan. Well, your investment failed spectacularly, and your backup plan doesn't owe you anything. The silence on the other end was deafening. I could hear her breathing, probably trying to process that her plan to guilt trip me wasn't working. Then she started bargaining. We'll pay you back with interest. We'll give you equity in the house. Tyler will work for you for free. We'll do anything. The time for making deals was 20 years ago when I was a kid who needed his parents' support. That ship has sailed, and it's not coming back to port. I hung up and immediately blocked all their numbers. The foreclosure went through 3 weeks ago. I actually drove by the house the day the sheriff posted the notice. There was a big yellow sticker on the front door, and I could see Tyler loading boxes into my dad's old pickup truck. The Tesla was already gone, repossessed 2 weeks earlier. Dad's business went bankrupt the following week. All his equipment, his truck, his tools, everything got auctioned off to pay creditors. The man who used to employ 6 people was suddenly unemployed at 55 with no prospects and massive debt. Tyler had to sell his camera equipment, his expensive computer setup, and anything else of value he owned. The downtown loft was history, obviously. All 3 of them are now crammed into a 2-bedroom apartment in the worst part of town that costs $1,400 per month they can't afford. Meanwhile, I just closed on a $750,000 house in the best neighborhood in town. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 2-car garage, and a backyard perfect for the pool I'm installing next month. The master bedroom alone is bigger than their entire apartment. The house has a home office where I manage my real estate portfolio, a wine cellar for my growing collection, and a 3-car garage for my Porsche, my new BMW M3, and whatever toy I decide to buy next. Everything they dreamed of having but never worked for. The beautiful irony is that I could have easily bailed them out. $180,000 is honestly pocket change to me now. I make more than that in a good quarter from my rental properties alone. But some lessons can only be learned the hard way. My mom keeps creating new email addresses to contact me because I blocked all her old ones. The messages are getting increasingly desperate and pathetic. Last week, she sent a 20-paragraph email explaining how she finally understands what she did wrong and begging for one last chance to make things right. My dad shows up at my office sometimes, looking more broken each time. My assistant has strict instructions to have security escort him out immediately. The last time he came, he was wearing clothes I recognized from 10 years ago and looked like he'd lost 20 pounds. Success suits me much better than poverty suits him. Tyler sent me a 15-page handwritten letter that reads like something a prisoner would write to a parole board. He explained how sorry he is, how he understands now what real work looks like, and outlined a detailed plan for how he would earn my respect back by getting a minimum wage job and paying me back $50 per month for the rest of his life. The letter was particularly pathetic because he kept referring to me as the smart one and himself as the screw-up. He promised to never ask for anything again if I would just help them this one time and swore he'd spend the rest of his life proving he could be the brother you deserve. But you know what? Forget all of them. They had 27 years to treat me like I mattered. They chose not to. Now they get to live with the consequences while I live my best life. Last week, I was at the country club I just joined. Membership fee, $25,000. When I overheard two guys talking about this local family that lost everything, they were describing how the dad's plumbing business failed and they had to move into some apartment complex on the wrong side of town. I didn't say anything, but I smiled knowing they were talking about my parents. In a town this size, everyone knows everyone's business. My family went from being the couple with the successful entrepreneur son to being the cautionary tale about financial irresponsibility and parental favoritism gone wrong. Here's the part that makes this revenge absolutely perfect. Last month, Tyler got a job at Home Depot, the same store where I worked part-time in college. The manager who hired him is someone I know well from my contractor relationships. Apparently, Tyler had to explain during his interview why a 26-year-old man with no work history needed an entry-level retail job. The manager told me Tyler broke down crying during the interview, talking about how his family lost everything, and he needed to become a real man and support his parents. Tyler is now making $12 per hour doing the same work I did 7 years ago, except I was also going to school full-time and building a future. My mom got a job at a nail salon making $9 per hour plus tips. This woman who hasn't worked in 25 years is now doing pedicures for tips. She has to stand on her feet 8 hours a day serving the same type of wealthy women she used to pretend to be. My dad is working for one of his former competitors, doing basic plumbing repairs for $18 per hour. The man who used to own his own business is now taking orders from guys he used to compete against. His former employees make more money than he does now. The three of them together make less in a month than I spend on mortgage payments. They're living paycheck to paycheck while I'm building generational wealth. Some people might think I'm being too harsh. But here's the thing. They never loved me. They loved the idea of what I could do for them once they realized I was useful. That's not family. That's just parasites with shared DNA. Story 2. So I'll introduce myself before I start talking about what happened. I'm 17 years old. I celebrated my 17th birthday just a couple of months ago. I graduated from high school just a month ago and have been a straight A student all my life. I've been living with my 38-year-old mother for the last year and 10 months. She's a single mom and the head chef at one of the best Italian restaurants in our city. My parents got divorced when I was 10 years old. My parents' co-parent had me for several years, but then my dad was diagnosed with brain cancer. My dad ran the trucking business that his parents had started, but he let his brother take over once he fell sick. Earlier, I used to alternate between living with my mom and dad every week, but after my dad's diagnosis, I had to move in with my mom full-time. I visited my dad often, but I still did miss living with him because I'd say I've always been a lot closer to my dad as compared to my mother. My mom's just always been a little too tightly wound for us to really get along, and we just constantly used to be at odds. First, it was my dad who she'd fight with all the time, and then after the divorce, it was me. She had her good moments too, though, so I didn't mind staying with her. And after my dad's diagnosis, I had no choice but to stay with her. So I made my peace with it. My mother and I in the recent past have not been on good terms, mostly because of her relationship with her new husband and how he treats me. My mother got married for a second time just 8 months ago to Mark 32 male. She'd been dating Mark for a little over 1 year, and I only found out about it when he proposed because she'd kept their relationship well under wraps. It was the significant age gap between the two, and my dad had just been diagnosed at the time, which also didn't help, so she just kept it a secret. When he proposed, that's finally when she decided to tell us about their relationship, and at that point, I had no other choice but to be okay with it. I never liked or trusted Mark, and it was mostly because of his overly sweet behavior. He seemed to fake and insincere even when he was being nice to me. Like the vibes were just always off about him, if you catch my drift. Of course, I couldn't tell my mother that because then she'd think I was trying to discourage her from getting married on purpose or some other ridiculous thing I put up with Mark. But I didn't allow him to be my friend, and I realized I was right about him. Just 3 months after the wedding, he'd moved in with us after the wedding, and since he was a high school football coach, he'd be home a lot earlier than my mother. We'd end up spending a lot of time at home by ourselves before my mother came home. And surprisingly, he never tried to even speak to me when we were on our own. But as soon as my mother would be home, he'd turn on the charm and try to act like we were best buddies. Anyone in their right mind would be able to see right through his little act. And so was I, anyway. So one day, I went to the kitchen to grab myself some food, and then I heard a creaking sound coming from my mom's bedroom. Now, I knew that my mother had a secret locker under her bed that only we knew about and kept the keys on her all the time. She had a spare set of keys as well, but those were usually with me, and I hadn't given my keys to Mark. So I realized that he must have stolen my mom's set. The locker contained all of my mother's wedding jewelry, back from when she got married to my dad, and a lot of other really expensive jewelry too. She also kept some spare bundles of cash stashed away in the locker for emergencies. She didn't trust bank lockers and preferred to keep these valuables close to herself because she felt it was considerably safer. It was a whole thing. I watched Mark take out an entire bundle of cash and put it in his pocket. I was too shocked to even move and stayed rooted to my spot. So when Mark turned around, he spotted me standing right outside the bedroom. He looked irritated for a second, and then gave me a big smile, walked towards me, and then put his arm around my shoulder while walking me to the living room couch there. He told me that my mother had asked him to bring him some cash for work emergency, and that's where he was headed with the bundle of cash. He told me that this was perfectly normal, and that I didn't need to talk to my mother about this. I was going to tell my mother about it that day as soon as she came back home. But as soon as I started the conversation, she told me she didn't want to hear it. I just sat her down in private and told her that I had something to talk to her about with regards to Mark. And as soon as I said that, she shut me down instantly. She told me that she'd seen this coming and knew this was going to happen at some point or the other. My mom thought that I was going to tell her the same old Mark is not the right guy for you. And for some reason, she believed that I was going to try and ask her to patch things up between her and my dad. I don't know why she assumed that, because I never made it seem like I thought she and my dad were good together or whatever. I was very relieved when they separated because it was better that they get divorced and force each other to remain married and traumatize me with their daily fights and arguments. I tried to tell her, but she just wouldn't hear it and yelled at me and said that if I even said a word against Mark, then she'd ground me. That pissed me off. So I decided that she could suffer for all I care, since she was clearly too taken by Mark's surface-level attractiveness to notice what a loser he was. If she wanted to believe a lie and stay delusional, then I wasn't going to stop her, especially after she'd insulted me like that. I didn't bring up the incident with Mark after that, and waited for my mother to catch on herself, which she, unfortunately, never did. Months passed like this, and I grew more and more distant from my mother because she was obsessed with her husband. And it was just gross, simply because it was Mark of all people. Then, about a week ago, my mother decided to sit me down and talk to me about something very important. It was the weekend, and Mark was out with his friends. So it was just my mother and I. My first thought was that there was bad news about my dad, but she told me that wasn't it, and started to beat around the bush about irrelevant things. I didn't know what she was trying to get at. And so, after some time, I got fed up with her and told that to cut to the chase already. She blurted out that she actually wanted me to leave the house now because Mark had told her that he didn't feel comfortable around me and said that I made him feel safe and unwanted. Now I knew that my mother was smitten with Mark, but even I couldn't have seen this coming because kicking your own daughter out due to your husband's insecurity over practically nothing made no sense to me. I knew that Mark was afraid of me telling my mother about the locker incident and also just generally scared that someday I'd force my mother to take her rose-colored glasses off and see him for what he truly was. But he didn't have any reason to worry, because after the way my mother had spoken to me, when I tried to tell her the truth, she had made sure that I didn't say anything to her at all, beyond that point. In any case, I was so bloody done with my mom that I didn't even bother to argue with her and just said, okay, then got up and started packing. My head was pounding with anger while I was packing, and I honestly wanted to wait for Mark to come home so I could punch him in the face. But then I found my mother's spare keys to the locker and had a better idea. I snuck into my mom's room while she was watching television in the living room, grabbed her bag, took out the keys, and then took them away. I also left a note in her purse saying that if she wanted to know where her original keys were, she could talk to Mark about it to make sure that he wouldn't get away with this scot-free. After I was done packing my clothes, books, and some other miscellaneous stuff that I'd need, I walked to the living room to say goodbye to my mother. She seemed surprised because she hadn't actually expected me to pack up and leave that day itself, which is also why she'd been watching television in the living room instead of helping me. In spite of the initial shock, she got over super quickly and hugged me goodbye. There was not a single tear in her eye, and neither did she seem unhappy about the situation. It was painfully evident that none of this seemed problematic to her at all. I left the house and boarded the bus that took me to my dad's house, which happened to be far away from my mother's place. It was about 2,000 miles away in the suburbs, which is part of the reason why I used to live with my mom. My dad was still undergoing treatment and had to be in and out of the hospital frequently. He lived with his brother, who took care of him. And whenever I visit him, which is almost every week, I try to keep the conversation light and positive so he wouldn't worry too much about me. I missed him, but I also cared about him and his wealth way too much. So I had never said anything about Mark or my mother with him. Whenever he'd asked me how I was doing at home and how my mother and her new husband were treating me, I'd lied to him and tell him that it was all good. But now I couldn't do that anymore and had to tell him the truth about everything, which I did without any qualms because it was important for him to know this. I told him every single thing that had happened. When I got to talking about the events of that particular day, my dad got so mad that his ears literally went red, which was the first time I'd ever seen it happening. I was a little worried that he'd fly off the handle, and that wouldn't be good for his health. But he managed to contain himself just to pacify him. I also told him how I'd taken the keys and the note that I had left, which would ensure that my mother found out about Mark's thieving. That seemed to make him feel slightly better. And he told me that I was clever for doing that. My dad and my uncle then told me not to worry about anything and said that they were perfectly fine with taking care of me. The one and only reason they'd even agreed to let me move in with my mom full-time was because they thought it would be easier and more convenient for me. But if this was the case, then they'd happily take me back. I was also much happier with my dad and my uncle, so I didn't really mind that my mother had sent me away. On the first day, I didn't hear back from my mother at all, and neither did my father. But the very next day, my mother sent me a video of Mom sobbing and apologizing to me for whatever had happened. He was begging me to come back because he'd realized that he'd screwed up by stealing from the woman who'd put her heart and soul into the relationship. My mother texted me saying that this video was supposed to be proof that Mark did feel guilty about whatever he had done and for forcing her to kick me out. My plan had worked, and when she'd noticed the missing keys and the note, she'd confronted Mark about it, and he'd been left with no choice but to come out with the truth. It was satisfying to see him crying. But when my mother sent me another text saying that she'd only forgive him if I came back, it stopped being fun and just got exasperating. She should have known that there was no way I was going back to that hell where I was being treated like I was invisible all the time. I was either invisible or being treated like a burden. And neither of those two choices seemed like something anyone would want to pick from. And for my mother to even leave, the choice to me was ridiculous because it should have been her choice to end that marriage and apologize to me for what she did. If Mark was the bad guy here, so was she. And probably even worse than Mark, because at least he wasn't related to me. She, being my mom, had kicked me out for another man, and that was unforgivable. It wasn't just Mark who should have been apologizing, but she should also have been regretting what she put me through. Instead, she was treating this as some sort of sick game. I didn't understand why she'd left the fate of her marriage up to me to be decided. But since she had left it up to me, I chose to say that I wasn't going to come back. And she had to leave. Mark. In response to that, she sent me another video of a much calmer but still upset-looking Mark, saying that he understood where I was coming from. But he loved my mom and just needed one last opportunity to prove it to us. He sounded like he was on the verge of tears and was going to stop begging me on his knees any moment now. And that made me feel bad, but I still wasn't convinced. So I said that my decision was final to that. My mother finally replied, saying that I was being way too harsh on both of them. Here, with two grown adults trying to get me to forgive them and even putting their happiness and marriage at stake for my sake. But I didn't care about any of that, and only wanted to push them even further away. I didn't know what to say to her, so I just ignored her text and didn't reply. It's been 6 days since then, and every day she's been texting me and trying to get me back. And every single day there's a video message from her and Mark where they apologize to me for treating me badly. She's told me repeatedly in the videos that unless I agree to come back, she'll file for divorce to prove to me that she's serious. Yesterday, she even told me that she'd been speaking to a lawyer and sent me texts to prove that it was true. Mark also looked upset in the video message they sent and begged me to forgive him because he couldn't afford to lose a woman like my mother. I know that I'm destroying their marriage, but to be honest, I feel like whatever my mother is doing is really sick, and I can't bring myself to dignify it with a response of any kind. Not only is she torturing her own husband, but she's also putting me through something very unnecessary because I don't think I'm the one who needs to make a call about what to do in a situation like this. She shouldn't be putting the responsibility of deciding with regards to her marriage on my shoulders in the first place. Does that makes me look like the reason their marriage had to end? Because because her daughter wasn't happy about her marriage so far? I think everyone knows that that's not the case. And I'd hate to feel guilty like that, but she's just putting me on the spot. So it's not like I have a way out of this. Anyway, Mark's not a good guy, but he's still a human being. And it's crazy that he's allowing himself to be treated this way at all. Just because my mother's richer than him, it's dehumanizing. And I can't believe he's just letting her do this to him every day. I haven't told my dad about it because I don't want him to worry about me. And I know if I tell him, he'll definitely intervene. And that'll be another dramatic showdown that I don't want him to take on. I feel terrible, but I don't know what to do here. Am I the a-hole for refusing to decide whether my mother should divorce her failing husband? Update 1. Hey guys. So I read the comments on my original post, and the general consensus was that I should tell my dad about what I was going. So instead of trying to deal with all my problems myself, I guess it's true because I do tend to take it all on myself, instead of speaking up and asking for help when I need help. I feel bad telling my dad because I think it might be bothersome for him since he has so much on his plate already. I mean, he's a literal cancer patient. So it's not easy for me to go to him with my problems the way I used to before his diagnosis. I think if I just tried to talk to him, then maybe I wouldn't have had to go through so much because he wouldn't have allowed it at all. Like this time, I finally told my dad all about my mother and her sick techniques, and he called her up and tore into her. She tried to tell my dad that this was none of his business, but he wasn't having it, and told her that he'd be filing for full custody and that he'd make sure she doesn't ever get to see me after this. She was protesting against it, but both my dad and I knew that she didn't really care about me. She cared more about what other people would think of her when they found out that she'd lost custody of her only daughter because she decided to put her husband over her daughter. That's why she was fighting with my dad over me, not because she loved me. If she loved me, she would have been a better mother. And that was something she'd never even tried to be. Now it was just too late. After the phone call with my mom, my dad explained to me the same things that people in the comments had told me that I was his daughter and that I didn't need to think twice before coming to him with a problem. Because as a father, he could never think of me as a burden. My well-being was his responsibility, and his cancer wasn't going to prevent him from giving me the best life and solving my problems whenever he needed to step in. And I needed to remember that. I won't lie. I teared up at that point because it just reminded me that even though he was a lot weaker than I remembered, he was still my strong dad underneath. I ended up breaking down because after a long time, I finally felt that I was safe and loved again, thanks to my mother and Mark. I completely forgotten how that feeling was. But my dad reminded me again that no sickness in the world was going to stop him from protecting me. And I'll always be grateful for that. Gosh, it sounds so sappy, but I'm really happy that it's true for me. Update 2. My dad has filed for full custody of me, and my mom isn't going to get any visitation rights either. It doesn't really matter since I'm just 1 year away from being a legal adult anyway. But my dad said that he just doesn't trust my mother anymore, because her head has obviously been turned by Mark's presence in her life. Recently, she texted me to tell me that I disappointed her by dragging my dad into this, even though I knew he was sick and called me a selfish and manipulative brat. She also added that she was really happy now that she hadn't actually divorced Mark over what I said. I was accused of trying to drive a wedge between them because that's the kind of petty person I was, but I failed. And she and Mark were now stronger than ever. She would gladly give up custody of me because I don't deserve to be her daughter anyway. There were a couple of other really mean things she said, but I don't care. She can say whatever she wants, but it won't change the fact that she's the one who failed as a mother. And the reason she's getting so defensive now is because she knows that my maternal grandparents have threatened to cut her off. But she doesn't even care about that. She's that crazy about Mark. I mean, I don't even know what to say about this woman. I've had my differences with my mother growing up, but this is just insane. She's beyond help, if you ask me. At least my grandparents have tried to knock some sense into their daughter, but even that's not working. And if her own parents can't bring her back to her senses, then we're definitely not going to be able to accomplish that. My dad's been kind enough to allow her parents to still see me because they've never done anything wrong. I just wish she'd been able to take a leaf out of that book and learn how to have a good relationship with your ex, even after divorce. Because even my grandparents are divorced, and despite that, they've done their best to raise my mom to be a strong, successful woman. Now she's almost in her 40s, so they can't be held responsible for whatever she's up to now. Unfortunately, my mother failed on all fronts as a wife, as a mother, and even as a daughter. Update 3. Hey everyone. It was a really bittersweet day today. My mother finally terminated her parents' rights over me, and I'm legally free from her now. I decided to accompany my father for the signing and saw her again today, probably for the last time in a while. She didn't acknowledge my existence at all and didn't even look at me. I didn't know how to feel very honestly, and I still don't. Like, I'm sad, but I'm also relieved, I guess. I don't know, I just have mixed feelings about all of this. Mark wasn't there, which was no big surprise, because that thief probably didn't have the spine to face me after whatever happened. It was only my mother's actions that really hurt me anyway. He can go to hell because he's very irrelevant in my life. My dad and uncle took me out for dinner to make me feel better today, and that did cheer me up a little. 2 days ago, he also learned that my dad is getting better. And slowly but surely, there's definitely a real chance of him beating cancer. So if everyone could just pray for that, that'd be great. I love my dad, and at this point, he's my only parent, so I can't lose him. I just can't. My uncle's great, but he's not my dad, and nobody will ever be like him. Ever. I don't know how much time I have with him, but I just hope that whatever time we have together is only good times and nothing else. Nevertheless, I hope you guys keep us in your prayers, and thank you to all of you who responded. Update 4. Hello, everyone. It's been a turbulent few weeks since my last update, and a lot has happened. As always, your support has been a pillar for me during these trying times. So here's the latest chapter in my ongoing story. After the last update, where I left my mother's house and moved in full-time with my dad, things started to stabilize, at least for a little while. My dad's health showed some improvement, which gave us both a much-needed morale boost. We spent a lot of quality time together, catching up on all the small things we missed during the years I lived with my mom, and I felt a sense of peace and belonging that had been absent for too long. However, just as I was settling into this new life, an unexpected twist came our way. My mother, after weeks of silence following the custody changes and my refusal to mediate her relationship with Mark, reached out to me directly. This time, it wasn't through tear-filled videos or manipulative messages. She showed up at my dad's place, unannounced and alone. Seeing her after everything that had happened was jarring. She looked worn and much older than I remembered from just a few weeks ago. She didn't come to plead or argue this time. Instead, she came to apologize. She told us that she had left Mark. After a lot of soul-searching and therapy, she realized how deeply her actions had hurt me and jeopardized our relationship. It was a lot to process. Part of me wanted to shut the door in her face, to tell her it was too late for apologies. But seeing her there, genuinely remorseful, made my resolve waver. We talked for a long time that day. She didn't ask to come back into my life fully or undo the past. She just wanted to apologize and to tell me she was getting help to become better, not just for her but for us. My dad, who's always been more forgiving, encouraged me to consider what I wanted from this interaction. Did I want to hold on to the anger and bitterness? Or could I find it within myself to forgive, not forget, and possibly rebuild something new from the remnants of our old relationship? It was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. I've decided to take it slow. We agreed that my mother would start by joining us for dinner once every month. These visits would be casual, with my dad present to provide support. We all agreed that any sign of regression on her part would mean reevaluating this decision. In these past few weeks, she's been true to her word. She's been attending therapy regularly and has even started working at a new job, trying to rebuild her life from the ground up. It's strange and somewhat surreal to see this change in her. There's a part of me that's cautiously optimistic, hoping that maybe, just maybe, we can salvage a relationship out of this mess. Outside of the family drama, life has been looking up in other areas too. I've started applying to colleges, and am excited about the prospect of studying computer science. My grades and extracurricular activities have garnered interest from several good universities, and I'm hopeful about getting scholarship offers. My relationship with my dad remains my rock. His health is still a concern, but every day he shows incredible strength and optimism, which inspires me. We've grown even closer, if that was possible, and I cherish every moment we spend together. Reflecting on everything, I realize how complex life can be, filled with unexpected challenges, but also opportunities for growth and forgiveness. While I'm wary of what the future might hold regarding my relationship with my mom, I'm learning to navigate these waters with a new perspective, one that's a little more understanding and a lot more hopeful. Thank you all for sticking with me through this journey. Your advice and support have been invaluable, and I promise to keep updating as we go along. Here's to hoping for more positive developments in the future. Update 5. Hello, everyone. I'm back with another update on the whirlwind that has been my life. Thanks to everyone who's been following along and offering words of encouragement and advice. Your support means the world to me, especially during such transformative times. Since the last update, where I cautiously reopened communication with my mother, there have been significant developments both in our relationship and in other areas of my life. Let's dive into what's been happening. The monthly dinners with my mother have continued, and to my surprise, they have been going remarkably well. Each meeting has been less awkward than the last, and it feels like we're gradually finding a new rhythm in our relationship. She's remained consistent with her therapy and has made evident efforts to change her behavior and make amends. Witnessing her genuine attempts to improve herself has softened some of the hardened edges of my resentment. While I'm still cautious, I'm also curious and somewhat hopeful about where this new path might lead us. On a very positive note, my college applications have borne fruit. I received acceptance letters from several universities, including a few with generous scholarship offers. After much deliberation, I've decided to attend a college that's renowned for its computer science program. It's far enough to foster independence, but close enough to visit home if I need to. This balance feels right, and I'm excited about the new academic and social experiences that await. As for my dad, his health has stabilized, and while he's not out of the woods yet, every small improvement feels like a huge victory. We celebrated together when I told him about my college decision, and it was one of those perfect moments filled with hope and joy. He's proud of me, and I'm just as proud of him for his resilience and unwavering support. However, not all has been smooth sailing. Recently, a new challenge presented itself. My mother, feeling more confident in her progress and our slowly rebuilding relationship, expressed a desire to be more involved in my life, including wanting to play a more active role in my transition to college. This request brought back a flood of old feelings: wariness, doubt, and a fear of reverting to our old dynamics. I shared these feelings with my dad, and after a long discussion, he encouraged me to set boundaries that I felt comfortable with. He reminded me that forgiveness does not mean forgetting the past or letting go of my comfort for the sake of others. Taking this to heart, I had a candid conversation with my mother about my feelings and boundaries. I explained that while I appreciated her changes and efforts, I needed to take things at my own pace. Surprisingly, she took it well and agreed to respect my wishes, reaffirming her commitment to rebuilding trust, however long it might take. Reflecting on all of this, I'm learning that life is a series of adjustments and growth. It's about finding balance, setting boundaries, and opening up to new chapters while closing others with grace. I'm learning to navigate these complexities, taking it one step at a time. As I prepare for college, I feel a mixture of excitement and nervousness about the future, but I'm also grounded in the knowledge that I have a strong support system in my dad, and potentially, if things continue to improve, in my mother as well. Thank you all for being part of my journey. Your insights and shared experiences have not just guided me, but have also shown me the strength of community in navigating life's ups and downs. I will continue to update as I embark on my college journey and the next chapter of my life. Here's to new beginnings and continued healing. Story 3. My ex-wife, 33 female, won't stop trying to contact me, and it's messing me up. It has been over 6 months since D-Day and 5 months since the divorce, and I still need some advice. I do not have enough time to tell my full story, but here's what I can tell you. Married for 5 years, had a great bond. We had made the choice not to have kids until we were both 35. I pretty much caught her in the act with her affair partner in her bedroom. I had been pretty clear about my views on infidelity right from when we started dating, and had told her very clearly that cheating was a complete no-no for me. I stayed calm throughout the entire ordeal. I asked her to get dressed. I called up her elder sister, who lived in a nearby town, and asked her to pick up my wife. I blocked her on all platforms and talked to my lawyer about the divorce proceedings. They drove back to my house the next day, and she immediately threw herself onto me and started crying profusely. She wanted me to give her a chance to explain herself, even though I did not want to hear any of it, and my answer would still be divorce. Whether she cheated 100 times or just once, I sat down with her and asked her some questions. My first question was it an emotional affair or just a physical one? She seemed to be stupefied for a good 5 or 6 seconds before tears started streaming down her face, and she whined about how I could even think she would have an emotional affair with someone else other than me, and swore it was a purely physical one. My second question was, were you unsatisfied in our marriage in any way? She claimed she wasn't. She was incredibly happy with both our sex life and our financial status. What was the reason then? I don't know, she said, and broke down. She got on her knees and said she felt disgusted with herself. She said she was going through a lot since she wasn't doing well in her job, and she wanted to validate her own importance in her mind. She often talked to me about her job too. I supported her wholeheartedly, and she was also going to therapy for it, even though I did not understand her reason. I did not poke much into it. How many times were you physically involved? She told me it was only 3 times of physical contact, and she had apparently never allowed him to kiss her. I don't know if that was supposed to make me feel better about it. With that, I was done. I told her that I wanted a divorce. Surprisingly, she did not say anything, just nodded and went to the guest room and locked herself up with her sister. Unfortunately, before I could serve her the divorce papers, our district went into lockdown, and travel between districts was prohibited. Thus, in an unfortunate turn of events, it seemed I would need to spend a full week with my wife in the same house, and I could not even file for divorce because the courts were closed. But I was not having that BS. I decided to move out and live in my neighbor's house instead, and that helped somewhat. I would still see her every day with dark circles and swollen eyes. She looked nothing like before. One day she got too drunk, and I heard her shouting in a room I discussed. "You don't lie. You can't even look at my face." And she repeated that the whole night. Another day I bumped into her talking to someone on the phone in the footpath in front of her house, and she immediately started freaking out and screamed. I was not talking to him, I promise. It was just my colleague from work. A while later, she seemed to realize her mistake and walked away without another word. A week later, they moved away, and I moved back into my house. I got done with the divorce about a month later. Bizarrely, she did not demand anything from me in the settlement. 6 months later, she would still text me and call me sometimes. She once drove over 50 miles to see me when I was ill with COVID. I have not been doing very well. I do still love her the way she was, truly mournful of her mistakes, sometimes almost made me feel for her again. But at other times, I just wanted to cut her off completely and start fresh. I'm not sure if I would be able to love or marry again, but I did get along with a few hookups in the last 2 weeks or so, and to be honest, it does feel better. Somewhat. I do not know if I can move on if we keep talking. I have told her not to talk to me, but she does not listen. Should I just block her everywhere? I really do not want to hurt her, but she has not left me any option. What should I do? Let's check in with some comments before the update. Throwaway Bid 61 says it is to your credit that you do not want to hurt her. That indicates that you're a good person. But she hurt you badly, and she destroyed her marriage and lied to you and betrayed you. You need to burn her to everyone and shut her down on everything and block her everywhere. She made the bed. Now it's time for her to lie in it. Rick Decker, 1982, says of the things I'm certain I know for sure. High on the list is that every person that cheats knows exactly why they did it, and that reason is that they wanted to cheat more than they wanted the relationship they were already in. Everything else is just semantics and rationalizations. You've done the hard part. It's over. Let it be over. She's someone else's problem now. You may still love her, but she stopped loving you the minute she thought cheating was okay if she ever loved you at all. See, love is also a verb. She certainly wasn't loving you while cheating with him. Update. So I did exactly what I had intended to do. I called her up and told her that I wished to go completely no contact for a few months. For a few seconds, I heard nothing on her end. Long enough for me to ask if she even heard me. She said she did hear me and started fumbling for words. Once again, I explained to her that it was not her fault of her. It was just me who was finding it difficult to move on with my life if we kept talking. She said she understood and promised not to contact me before hanging up. She asked me if I was planning on completely cutting her off. I bluntly told her that I was not planning to do so at the moment, but I might change my decision in the future. She told me it was all right, that I deserved to do whatever I needed to get over it, and told me that she would try to find a new job during these months. With that, I bid her farewell and proceeded to block her on all platforms. A few hours later, her sister called me up. She told me I had made a good decision, especially since my ex-wife needed this no-contact period too. She only did a part-time job, hardly ever went out and spent the entire day going through old pictures. Thus, at least for the moment, I feel like I have made a good decision. A lot of people have messaged me, asking me several questions that were left untouched in the original post. Here, I would like to clear out some. How long has the affair been going on? According to her, they first had sex when she went on a work-related trip to another city, which was about 1 month before D-Day. Now she claims there was no sexual tension between them before this trip. But on the other hand, they had been working together in the same office for about 3 months, so I really can't tell if she's lying. How did you behave in the days before D-Day and immediately after it in the few weeks before D-Day when her affair was ongoing? I did not notice anything out of the ordinary. I am generally a very perceptive individual. The usual signs of an affair, such as increased conflict, anger, blaming, and trying to keep one's phone close by at all times. I did not notice any of it with her. She only grew quieter every day. I figured it was because of the problems she was facing in work and had a good talk with her. She hugged my chest and cried for several minutes, and I did my best to comfort her. We also had a lot of sex that week, as we usually did every week. I feel kind of embarrassed saying this, but we did a role play of her as a criminal and me as a policeman who caught her and then had forceful sex with her. It was her idea. In hindsight, it does not make some kind of sense now, though it kind of FS me up. Apart from that, I noticed nothing out of the ordinary on the day of discovery. She was dazed throughout the ordeal. It seemed her brain was switched off. She just looked at me with wide eyes, tears streaming down, and just nodded when I told her to wait for her elder sister while I left back to work. Later, my sister-in-law called me up to tell me that my ex-wife was nowhere to be found. I was preparing to go out in search of her when she called again to tell me that she found my ex-wife walking around in a dazed state around her neighborhood. She was either searching for me or for her, a fair partner. I don't know which. In her sister's house. She also tried to harm herself physically, but then calmed down and had some rest. Is she still talking to her affair partner? This is one point that I failed to mention in my original post. She quit her job immediately after D-Day. According to her, she could not bear to see her affair partner there every day. I had anticipated that she would use this opportunity to ask for a heavy stipulation from the divorce, which made it even more bizarre that she didn't. Was she really talking to her affair partner on the phone when you stumbled upon her on the footpath? Frankly, I don't know, and I haven't asked. How was your relationship after the divorce? We did have a no-contact period of about 1 week after the divorce. Later, she called me up and asked me if I could consider keeping a friendly relationship with her. I saw no harm in it, so I agreed. We agreed that we would not talk about the divorce or our married life. We just asked each other about work and how we were doing. As for the frequency of contact, I would say minimal. 1 or 2 texts per day, maybe, and sometimes none for days. Sometimes we would talk over the phone, but not for long periods. We never met physically. She did once drive over when I was ill, but was not allowed to actually meet me physically because I was in the isolation ward. Have you tried therapy? Of course I have been in therapy since D-Day. Ex-wife went to a therapist for the first 2 months after the divorce, but then stopped going for no apparent reason. Some people in the comments section seemed to misunderstand my original post. They kept posting comments asking me to consider reconciliation. I would like to reiterate that my original post was about whether I should block her or not, and not about reconciliation. I made the decision not to reconcile a long time ago, and my ex-wife has accepted it. It is not about how much she regrets and mourns over it. I am simply innkeeper of trusting her again. And now some quick comments before we wrap up. Red Porsche Killer says hi. I commend you for your stance and upkeep of values. As many others stated, no contact would be the healthier way for you to move on. But you are being very professional about how to handle your interaction with the ex. Question: what did you do with the bed, mattress, and linen? I hope you discarded it and play something new for yourself despite your stance, which is outstanding and definitely will help you to heal. You will be getting confronted with triggers for a long time, so mementos and remembrance of this awful day will always poke at you. All the best for you, and your future OP responded with, first of all, thank you. Thankfully, her sister took care of cleaning their mess up for me. I saw nothing but a few ripped packets of condoms in the dustbin outside. Moreover, even though I did say bedroom, they were not having sex on the bed. They were doing it on a couch. I do not know if they used the bed prior to moving to the couch, and I do not intend to find out. I sold all my furniture off anyway. Brian said cut contact. That's good for your future. If you keep friendly contact with her, she's definitely brainwashed you. And if you see her face and hear her voice indefinitely, remember her betrayal. So don't allow the pain once again. Start a fresh life. It's your life. All the best. Story 4. This story is titled, My Family Banned Me from Christmas because it's no place for losers. I took the hint and cut off my sister's free ride. Now she's spiraling. Hey everyone. Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hi guys. I never thought I'd be writing this. Been sitting on this story for a while, and honestly, it still makes my blood boil thinking about it. I'm 34 male. I work as a mechanical engineer at this manufacturing company. Nothing super fancy, but I do all right for myself. No wife or kids, which according to my family means I have tons of extra money to share. Yeah, you can probably see where this is going. Quick background. It's just me and my sister Sarah, 31 female. She's married to Mike with 2 kids. Growing up, Sarah was always my parents' favorite. Like, not even trying to hide it. She'd mess up and they'd find some way to excuse it. Failed a class? Teacher was targeting her. Crashed the car? Road was badly designed. Meanwhile, I got decent grades, stayed out of trouble, helped around the house. Basically invisible unless Sarah needed something. I thought things would change when we grew up. But nope. Sarah dropped out of college after 2 years, jumped between random jobs, then met Mike. He's actually a good guy. Works construction, real hard worker. When Sarah and Mike first got married, they struggled a lot financially. Makes sense. They were super young, and Mike was just starting in construction. I had just landed my engineering job, so I started helping them out here and there. At first, it was small stuff, grocery money, helping with bills when they came up short. Then it got bigger, rent money when they were about to get evicted, car repairs, stuff for the kids. I didn't mind helping, honestly. The kids are great, and Mike's the kind of guy who'd give you his last dollar if you needed it. He worked his butt off too, always picking up extra work when he could. Sarah, well, Sarah was Sarah. She'd bounce between jobs, never really sticking to anything. Always had some reason why it didn't work out. Everything was pretty normal. Well, our kind of normal anyway, until about a month before this past Christmas. I'm sitting at work, doing some CAD designs for a new project, when Sarah calls. She's all excited, talking super fast about how she needs $15,000 for the kids' education fund. Says it's a special program or something, where if you invest now, it doubles by the time they're in college. Right away, something felt off. First, $15,000 is way more than I usually help with. Second, Mike never mentioned anything about starting a college fund, which was weird because he usually talks to me about big financial decisions. When I asked Sarah for more details about this program, she got super defensive, started saying stuff like, "Don't you care about your niece and nephew's future?" And, "I thought family was supposed to help family." I tried explaining that $15,000 is a lot to just hand over without more information. Asked her to send me details about the program so I could look it over. I mean, if it's legit, why not? She completely flipped out, started crying, saying I never really cared about them, that I just pretend to help to make myself look good. Then she hung up on me. I tried calling Mike after that but couldn't reach him. Sent him a text asking if everything was okay, but he just replied, "Yeah man, all good, just super busy with work." Looking back, I should have pushed harder. Should have told him about Sarah's weird request, but I didn't want to cause problems in their marriage, you know? The next few weeks were strange. Sarah wouldn't answer my calls or texts. My mom called once to ask why I was being difficult with Sarah, but wouldn't give me details about what Sarah told her. Dad just sent this weird text saying family should stick together. I had no idea what was going on, but I figured it would blow over by Christmas. Man, was I wrong about that. I actually spent extra on presents, especially for the kids. Got Tommy this awesome remote control car he'd been talking about for months, and found this art set Emily wanted. Even got Mike some new work boots because I knew his were wearing out. Wrapped everything up nice, even bought some extra generic presents in case anyone brought unexpected guests. I remember driving to my parents' house on Christmas, thinking about how excited the kids would be opening their presents. So there I was, standing on my parents' front porch on Christmas morning. Had 2 bags full of presents, even wore that stupid Christmas sweater Mom got me last year. I rang the doorbell and waited, thinking about how the kids would react to their gifts. Dad opened the door, and I instantly knew something was wrong. He had this weird look on his face, like when he's mad but trying not to show it. Before I could even say Merry Christmas, he just goes, "We don't want you here this year." I legit thought he was joking. Like, my dad makes bad dad jokes all the time, so I started laughing. That's when Sarah appeared behind him and said, "This is no place for losers. You're really starting to wear on all of us." I'm not even kidding. Those were her exact words. My own sister, who I've helped support for years, called me a loser right to my face on Christmas morning. Mom was there too, standing in the background pretending to fix some Christmas decorations or whatever. She wouldn't even look at me. You know what's funny? She was wearing the necklace I got her for her birthday last year. The one Sarah told everyone she bought, even though I have the receipt saved because it was expensive and I needed it for insurance. I just stood there like an idiot for a minute, still holding these bags of presents. My brain couldn't process what was happening. Like, was this really happening? On Christmas? The worst part wasn't even Sarah's smug face or Dad's angry one. It was seeing Mike through the window, sitting on the couch looking totally exhausted. Guy looked like he hadn't slept in days. The kids were somewhere inside. I could hear them playing and laughing. No idea their uncle was getting kicked out of Christmas. I wish I could say I made some epic speech or stood up for myself. But honestly, I just said, "Fine, if that's how you feel," and walked back to my car. Put the presents in the trunk. Still wrapped. They're still sitting in my spare room, actually. But then I got mad. Like, really mad. Not the yelling kind of mad, but that cold kind where your brain gets super clear. I decided I wasn't leaving without knowing what the hell was going on. So I went back. Didn't even knock this time, just walked in. Sarah was lounging on the couch, scrolling through her phone like nothing happened. Mom was in the kitchen, probably stress baking, her solution to everything. Dad was trying to help Tommy set up some toy he got. I asked straight up, "What's going on? Why am I suddenly not welcome at Christmas?" Sarah didn't even look up from her phone. Just goes, "You really don't get it, do you? After what you did?" "What exactly did I do?" I asked. That's when she started this whole speech about how I never help them anymore, how I bought a new car instead of helping her family. It's a used Honda, by the way, nothing fancy, and how I refused to invest in the kids' future when they really needed it. Mike looked so uncomfortable during. He kept glancing between Sarah and me like he wanted to say something but couldn't. I just thought he was trying to avoid drama. My parents just sat there letting Sarah talk. Mom actually nodded along a few times, which hurt more than anything Sarah was saying. Dad finally spoke up with, "But you did buy that new car." Like that justified everything. I tried explaining that the car was on credit, that I'd spent a ton on Christmas presents, that I'd been helping them for years. But Sarah just talked over me, saying I was lying, that I never helped them, that I always made excuses. The crazy thing? My parents believed her. Every single word. Years of bank statements showing transfers to Sarah's account. Years of receipts for stuff I bought their kids. None of it mattered because Sarah said it didn't happen. I looked at the kids playing in the corner with their new toys, probably stuff Sarah claimed she bought, and something in me just broke, I guess. Not in a bad way, but like breaking free from something. I realized this wasn't about Christmas or presents or even money. This was about something else entirely. I just said, "You know what? You're right. I don't belong here. Enjoy your Christmas." Then I looked right at Sarah and added, "And good luck with those special investment programs of you." The look on her face when I said that, for just a second, she looked scared. That's when I knew for sure something bigger was going on. So I left off at Christmas Day. I sat in my car for like 20 minutes just staring at nothing. You know when something happens and your brain just keeps replaying it over and over? Yeah, that. I kept thinking about Mike's tired face, Sarah's smug expression, my mom not even. My phone kept buzzing. Turned out my cousin Jenny was trying to reach me. She was supposed to come to Christmas dinner and wanted to know if I was still going. I texted back, "Don't bother. I'm not welcome this year." She called right away wanting details, but I wasn't ready to talk about it. I drove home and spent the rest of Christmas Day doing what any 34-year-old engineer does when his family kicks him out. I opened up Excel. Yeah, laugh all you want, but I needed to see everything laid out. Started going through my bank statements from the past few years, making a spreadsheet of every time I helped Sarah and Mike. The numbers were insane. Like actually insane. Over the past 3 years alone, $4,800 for emergency rent when they were about to get evicted, $2,300 for car repairs, $3,500 for Tommy's dental work, around $6,000 in smaller stuff like groceries, bills, school supplies, $2,000 for Emily's special therapy session. Still don't know if those were real. That's not even counting all the presents, clothes, and random stuff I bought for the kids directly, or the money I gave them in cash when Sarah said they needed it right away. The more I added up, the angrier I got. Not because of the money itself, I mean, yeah, it's a lot, but I make good money, and I love those kids. It was about Sarah telling everyone I never helped them, about my parents believing her, about Mike working doubles at his construction job while Sarah was asking me for $15,000 for some fake investment thing. Then I remembered something weird. A few months back, I ran into Mike at Home Depot. He was buying some tools for work, and I offered to help pay because good tools are expensive. He looked confused and said, "Nah, man, I got it. I know things have been tight for you lately." At the time, I thought he was just being nice. But now I was wondering what Sarah told him about me, about all the money I'd given them. I tried calling Mike, but it went straight to voicemail. Texted him too. "Hey man, we need to talk about what happened today. Call me when you can." He never did. Sarah must have been watching her phone though, because she started texting me right away. "Stop trying to cause problems. You're just jealous because mom and dad love me more. Maybe if you weren't such a selfish jerk, you'd still be welcome at Christmas. The kids don't even miss you." That last one hurt. Not gonna lie, I didn't respond to any of her texts. Instead, I kept going through my records. Found all the emails where Sarah asked for money, all the transfer receipts, everything. Even had some texts saved where she thanked me for helping. Yeah, I save important texts. Sue me, I'm an engineer. We like documentation. The weird thing was, looking at the dates, Sarah always asked for the biggest amounts of money right after Mike got a raise or picked up extra work. Like she knew there'd be more money coming in and wanted to grab it before he saw it. Then, I found something that made my stomach turn. Remember that $15,000 she wanted for the kids' education fund? Well, I found an old email from Mike from about 2 years ago, talking about how he'd started a 529 account for both kids. He was so proud about putting away $100 from every paycheck. Sarah knew about those accounts. She knew they already had college funds set up. So what did she want that $15,000 for? That's when my phone lit up with a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was Amy, Mike's sister. All it said was, "You need to know what's really going on. Can we meet?" It was weird how she reached out to me, but I agreed to meet at this little coffee shop near my work. Amy showed up looking seriously stressed. First thing she says is, "Mike doesn't know I'm here." Then she pulls out this folder, and I'm thinking, great, more documentation. My kind of person, TBH. Turns out Amy works at the bank where Sarah and Mike have their accounts. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Isn't that confidential information? That's exactly what Amy said. She was really nervous about the whole thing, but said she couldn't stay quiet anymore after what she'd seen. According to Amy, Sarah had been opening separate accounts without Mike's knowledge. Every time I sent them money for emergencies, Sarah would only use a small part for whatever she claimed she needed it for. The rest went straight into these secret accounts. But here's the really messed up part. Sarah had been telling Mike that I stopped helping them years ago, that I got too fancy with my engineering job and forgot about family. Mike was working himself to death with extra shifts because he thought they were on their own. Amy showed me some bank statements. Yeah, probably breaking some rules, but I'm grateful she did. They showed Sarah withdrawing large amounts of cash right after I'd send money for specific things. Like when I sent $3,500 for Tommy's dental work. Only $800 actually went to the dentist. The rest? Poof. I asked Amy why she was telling me all this. She started crying right there in the coffee shop. Said Mike's been working 60 to 70-hour weeks, thinking they're barely making ends meet. Meanwhile, Sarah's secret accounts had over $40,000 in them. $40,000. That's not just emergency money or a shopping fund. That's runaway money. I felt like such an idiot. All those times Sarah needed money for the kids, for bills, for emergencies, I was basically funding her escape plan without knowing it. And poor Mike was working doubles thinking they were struggling. Then Amy dropped another bomb. Sarah had been asking about moving money international, had been researching countries with weak extradition laws, had to Google what that meant. Basically places where it's hard to force someone to come back. I must have looked pretty shell-shocked because Amy kept apologizing for telling me. But she said after hearing about Christmas, she couldn't keep quiet anymore. She was worried about Mike and the kids. I asked her why she didn't tell Mike directly. She said she tried hinting at it, but Mike totally trusted Sarah. Would probably think Amy was just trying to cause trouble. That's why she came to me instead. We spent like 2 hours in that coffee shop going over everything. The more we talked, the more obvious it became. Sarah wasn't just stealing from me, she was setting up her escape. That $15,000 she wanted? Probably the final amount she needed to disappear. When I got home that night, I had 3 missed calls from Sarah and a text saying, "Hope you're happy with yourself. Mom's been crying because of you." Classic Sarah. Try to make me feel guilty while she's literally planning to abandon her family. I didn't sleep at all that night. Kept thinking about Mike working those extra shifts, about Tommy and Emily, and how Sarah was planning to just leave them, and how I was funding all that. About my parents who still weren't talking to me because they believed Sarah's lies. The next morning, I called my company's lawyer. Figured I needed professional advice before doing anything. This was way bigger than just family drama. So my company's lawyer, let's call her Linda, looked over everything I had, bank statements, texts, emails, the whole thing. She said I should talk to Mike directly, but be careful about mentioning what Amy told me since that info wasn't exactly obtained legally. I was trying to figure out how to approach Mike when Sarah made things easier by showing up at my house unannounced. Just started pounding on my door in the middle of my work from home day. I was literally on a Zoom call about a new project when she showed up. I muted myself, told my coworkers I had a family emergency, and opened the door. Sarah looked totally different from Christmas, like messy hair, no makeup, wearing sweatpants. Not her usual put-together self. She barged right in and started going off about how I was ruining everything. Kept saying stuff like, "Why couldn't you just help like you always do?" And, "Do you know how hard this has been?" I just let her rant. Figured maybe she'd slip up and reveal something. She did. "Mike's being impossible," she said. "He's talking about cutting back his hours because he's tired all the time. I needed that money, and you ruined everything by saying no." That's when I asked her straight up, "What money, Sarah? The $15,000 for the kids' education fund that they already have?" She froze for a second, just stared at me, then tried to backtrack. "That's different. This was for a special program." "What program?" I asked. Because Mike started 529 accounts for both kids 2 years ago. He told me about it himself. She changed tactics real quick. Started crying, saying she was just trying to do what's best for the family, that I didn't understand how hard things were. I lost it. Not gonna lie. Said something like, hard for who? Mike's working 70-hour weeks while you're opening secret bank accounts. The look on her face. Man. That's when I knew Amy was right about everything. Sarah got real quiet. Then she said something I'll never forget. You don't know what it's like being stuck here. I never wanted any of this. Any of what? I asked. Your husband who works himself to death for you? Your kids who adore you? The brother who's been bankrolling your secret escape fund? She didn't even deny it. Just said, they're better off without me anyway. I pulled out my phone and played the audio recording of our entire conversation. Yeah, I recorded it. Linda advised me to record any interactions with Sarah. Said, you sure about that? Because I bet Mike would be really interested in hearing what you just said. Sarah lost it. Started screaming that I had no right, that I was trying to ruin her life, that she'd tell everyone I was lying. Then she said she'd tell Mike I tried to hit on her if I showed him the recording. I just laughed. Told her to go ahead. I had years of proof about the money, the secret accounts, everything. Asked her how she'd explain that to Mike and our parents. She ran out of my house crying. Slammed the door so hard my neighbor texted to ask if everything was okay. I sat down at my desk, hands shaking, and sent the recording to the lawyer. She called me right away and said, don't do anything yet. Give me 24 hours. Then my phone started blowing up. Sarah had called my parents. Mom left this long voicemail about how I was bullying Sarah, how I'd always been jealous of her, how I was trying to destroy her marriage. Dad just texted, your mother's upset. Fix this. Like I was the problem. My lawyer called me the next morning saying she'd gotten a weird call. Mike had contacted his own lawyer, who then reached out to her. Apparently, he'd found something in their banking stuff that didn't add up and started digging. We set up a meeting at my lawyer's office. Just me, her, Mike, and his lawyer. No Sarah. Walking into that meeting was super weird. Mike looked like he'd aged 10 years since Christmas. Before anyone said anything, Mike pulled out a folder and put it on the table. I found these last night, he said. Turned out Sarah had messed up, left her email open on their shared computer. Mike found emails about international bank transfers, and one of them mentioned my name. He'd gone through their bank records after that and found, well, everything. All the times I'd sent money that he never knew about. All the withdrawals Sarah made right after. The secret accounts Amy had told me about. I've been killing myself working doubles, Mike said, thinking we were barely making it. Meanwhile, my wife's been hiding money and lying about my own brother-in-law? That's when Linda played the recording from my conversation with Sarah. Mike just sat there, getting paler and paler. When it got to the part where Sarah said, they're better off without me anyway, he put his head in his hands. His lawyer asked me some questions about the money I'd given them. I showed them my spreadsheet. My engineer brain finally came in handy. The total was way bigger than even I'd realized. Mike looked sick when he saw the number. We've been living paycheck to paycheck, he said. I had to take out a loan last year for Tommy's school supplies. Where did all this money go? His lawyer had an answer for that. They'd traced some transfers to accounts in other countries. Sarah had been planning this for years. Setting up accounts, researching places to go, even had a separate email account where she'd been talking to some guy about starting fresh. Yeah, turns out there was another guy. Some dude she met online who lived in a country with no extradition treaty with the US. Learned that term from Amy. Sarah had been planning to take the money and disappear with him. Mike just sat there for a minute after hearing all this. Then he asked me, why didn't you tell me sooner? I tried explaining how Sarah always made it seem like he knew about the money, how she'd say they discussed it together, how whenever I tried talking to him directly, she'd have some reason why it wasn't a good time. Some brother you are, he said, but not in a mean way, more like he was realizing how much Sarah had played both of us. The lawyers talked about next steps. Mike's guy was already working on divorce papers. Linda was helping document everything for when it went to court. They both said not to confront Sarah yet. Let the legal stuff get sorted first. Walking out of that meeting was rough. Mike stopped me in the parking lot. Those extra shifts? He said. Sarah told me they were for a surprise family vacation. I was trying to save up to take the kids to Disney World. I didn't know what to say to that. Just watched him get in his truck and drive away. Got home to find like 20 missed calls from Sarah and a bunch of texts from my parents about how I needed to stop causing trouble. They still had no idea what was really going on. But the worst part? A text from Sarah. I know Mike met with you. Don't make me tell everyone what you really did. She was still trying to threaten her way out of it. Still thought she could manipulate everyone. Still didn't care who she hurt. That's when I realized my sister was actually gone. The person sending these threats? That wasn't the Sarah I grew up with. Maybe she never was. Then one morning, Mike texts me, taking the kids to my mom's for the weekend. Sarah's going to some spa thing with her friends. Except Sarah wasn't really going to a spa. Mike knew she was meeting that guy she'd been talking to online. She was planning to check out some property with him. Yeah, right. So while Sarah was off doing whatever with this dude, Mike packed up everything important. And I mean everything. Documents, kids' stuff, family photos, everything they'd need. His brother and some friends from work helped him move it all to a house he'd been secretly renting. The kids thought they were just going on a fun trip with Dad. Mike told them they were going on an adventure and would be staying somewhere new for a while. They were actually excited about it. I helped too. Took a day off work to help move furniture and stuff. Felt weird being in their house, seeing all the things I'd helped pay for over the Found some of the toys I'd bought the kids that Sarah had said they lost. Mike found more stuff while packing. Hidden credit cards, a passport we didn't know about, even a burner phone. Sarah had been planning this for way longer than any of us realized. The whole time we're moving, I kept waiting for Sarah to show up and catch us, but she was too busy with her spa weekend to check in. Just sent Mike a few texts about how nice it was to relax for once, and how he wouldn't believe how fancy this place is. We got everything moved in 2 days. Mike even had time to get the kids' rooms set up all nice so it wouldn't feel too scary for them. He hung up their favorite posters, made their beds with their favorite sheets, put their toys exactly how they liked them. The lawyers had everything ready too. Divorce papers, custody filings, everything. They even had proof Sarah was with this other guy, thanks to a PI Mike's lawyer hired. Guess that's standard in divorce cases. Then we waited. Sarah came home Sunday night to an almost empty house. She called Mike right away, screaming about being robbed. He just told her, check your email. My lawyer sent you some papers to sign. She showed up at my house at like 11 p.m., totally losing it. Kept screaming about how we planned this, how we were trying to ruin her life, how she'd tell everyone what horrible people we... I just recorded everything. Again, thanks Linda for that advice, and told her to talk to Mike's lawyer. She tried to push past me into my house, but my security camera caught that too. The next morning, Sarah started calling everyone, told our parents Mike had kidnapped the kids, told her friends I'd threatened her, told Mike's boss he was stealing company tools. He wasn't, had receipts for everything. Nobody believed her this time. Mike had already talked to their friends, his work, even our parents, showed them proof of everything. The hidden accounts, the affair emails, the plans to leave. Mom called me crying, apologizing for not believing me at Christmas. Dad sent this long text about how sorry he was, but honestly, it felt kind of empty at that point. Sarah's still trying to spin it like she's the victim. Keeps posting on Facebook about how her family betrayed her and how the truth will come out. But she's running out of people who'll listen. The kids are doing okay. They miss their mom, but Mike got them into therapy right away. They're actually doing better now that they're not living in all that tension. And yeah, it's been about 3 months since everything went down. Sarah's still around, still causing drama. But honestly, nobody really listens to her anymore. She tried moving back in with our parents after her plan failed, but even they had limits after seeing all the proof. Speaking of our parents, yeah, that's been interesting. After all their apologies and crying about how sorry they were, guess what they asked for? Money. Said they wanted to help Sarah get back on her feet and needed $20,000. I just laughed and told them I'm done being the family ATM. They didn't like that answer. Dad got all huffy about how family helps family. Where was that energy at Christmas? Mom tried guilt-tripping me about how Sarah's their daughter, and they have to help her. I just told them they can help her with their own money. Haven't heard much from them since. Mike and the kids are doing really good, actually. He switched to a better-paying construction job that lets him work normal hours. The divorce stuff is still going through the courts. Sarah's trying to fight it, but she doesn't have much of a case. Her lawyer quit when she couldn't pay the bills. Wonder where all that money she hid went. Now she's telling everyone she can't afford a lawyer, and we're taking advantage of her. Yeah, right. The money thing's still being investigated. Police got involved because of how much she took, but these things move super slow. The good news is, Mike won't be responsible for any of the debt Sarah racked up once they found out she hid it from him. The kids ask about Sarah sometimes, but not as much anymore. Their therapist says that's normal. They have video calls with her once a week, but half the time she cancels or forgets. Mike says they're usually happier on the days she cancels. Remember that guy Sarah was going to run away with? He blocked her on everything once he realized she didn't have access to all that money anymore. Now she's telling everyone he was just a friend who was helping her escape an abusive situation. Nobody's buying it. I still help Mike and the kids sometimes, but it's different now. Everything's out in the open. He keeps real careful records of anything I help with, and he's already paid back some of it. Told him he doesn't have to, but he says it's important to him. Last week, Tommy lost his first tooth. Mike sent me a picture right away. Kid was so proud of himself. Guess who didn't respond when he sent her the same picture? Yeah, the weirdest part of all this? I actually feel better now that everything's out in the open. Yeah, I lost my sister, or maybe never really had the sister I thought I did, and things with my parents are pretty messed up. But at least it's all real now. No more lies, no more secrets, no more being manipulated. A few days ago, Mike invited me over for Tommy's birthday party. Sarah was supposed to come but canceled last minute. Big surprise. You know what Tommy said? That's okay. Uncle is here and he never misses anything. Kids got me figured out, I guess. Edit. Thanks for all the awards, but seriously save your money. If you want to do something nice, go help someone who actually needs it. Just maybe check that they're not planning to run away with your money first, lol. Edit 2. Stop asking me to adopt you as my sibling. My family funding days are over. Edit 3. Yes, I eventually donated most of those Christmas presents. Kept the ones for the kids, though. They really love that remote control car and art set. Story 5. My family said I was too weird for their events, so I left them off my wedding guest list. They lost it online. My brother tried to teach me a lesson by breaking into my house, and the judge taught him a real one. Hey, Reddit! My family treated me like the extra piece that didn't fit their perfect picture. So I stopped trying, built my own life, and finally found peace. But just when I thought it was over, they decided to cross the line. Let me take it from the start. My name's Aaron. I'm 31 and work as a cameraman for a small production company. It's not fancy, but I like it. I'm the quiet guy behind the lens, setting up shots, fixing lighting, making sure things look right. It fits me. Steady, simple, behind the scenes. Growing up, that didn't fit my family. I've got 2 siblings, Andrew and Monica, and if you ask my parents, they could do no wrong. Andrew was the golden boy. Sports, friends, charm. Monica was the social butterfly. Always talking, always out. I was the quiet one with books and a chessboard. The kid who liked learning how things worked. At home, being different wasn't just noticed. It was treated like something to fix. My dad used to joke that I was born in the wrong family. My mom said it with a smile, but it wasn't really a joke. They liked loud, crowded rooms and attention. I liked calm. When they teased me, they called it good fun, but it never felt like it. I remember my 14th birthday. They threw a barbecue that day, but it wasn't for me. It was for Andrew's game win. Nobody mentioned my birthday until my mom said, "Oh, right, happy birthday, Aaron," as she cleared plates. I said it was fine, but that kind of thing sticks. Every time I spoke up, I was told, "You're too sensitive," or "Don't start drama." Eventually, I stopped saying much at all. Family photos? I was usually the one taking them or standing half out of frame. Sometimes they'd forget to tell me about dinners or birthdays. I'd get a text after the fact, "We're at Grandma's if you want to come," when they were already eating. You can only believe that's an accident so many times. By my mid-20s, I had a small apartment, decent job, and kept my distance. I still visited sometimes, probably out of habit more than anything. My mom's favorite line was, "Family is everything," but it never really felt like she meant me. The real turning point came with Monica's wedding. I remember the call. "Hey, Aaron," she said, in that voice people use when they're about to say something awful but want to sound nice. "So, about the wedding, I think it's better if you don't come." I thought I misheard. What? It's just going to be really crowded. Lots of Andrew's friends, lots of dancing and drinking. Not really your scene, you know? I sat there with the phone against my ear, realizing my sister was uninviting me from her wedding because I was quiet. I said, "It's your wedding, Monica. Do what you want." My voice sounded calm, even though my stomach twisted. She thanked me like I'd done her a favor. "You're so understanding. I'll send pictures after." When I told my parents, my dad barely looked up from his paper. "She's the bride. Her call." Mom added, "You'd probably be uncomfortable anyway." So I didn't go. I didn't fight it. On her wedding day, I stayed home, scrolling through social media. Photos popped up, Monica in her dress, Andrew giving a toast, my parents smiling. Nobody noticed I wasn't there. That night I microwaved dinner and watched an old documentary. I told myself it didn't matter, but it did. It wasn't about missing the party. It was realizing they didn't want me there. Not because I'd done anything wrong, but because I didn't fit their idea of fun. After that, I stopped waiting for invitations. If they didn't ask, I didn't show up. Simple. I didn't hate them. I just saw things for what they were. Once you accept that, you start noticing details. Every conversation circled back to Andrew's promotion, Monica's house, my parents' trips. Nobody asked what I was doing. Nobody even pretended. So I stopped trying. I worked, saved money, took side jobs filming events. Work made sense. People paid you for what you did, not who you were related to. That felt fair. The silence that came with pulling back changed me. You stop expecting warmth where it never existed. You build quiet walls and don't even notice, until one day, you realize they're keeping you safe. I didn't know it yet, but those walls were about to be the best thing I ever built. A few months after Monica's wedding, life went back to normal for everyone but me. I stopped expecting calls. I figured if they needed me, they'd reach out. Then came Andrew's big promotion. He'd landed some management role at his company, and my parents wouldn't stop bragging about it. Every call from mom was, "You should learn from your brother. He really worked hard for this." I congratulated him through text, and he just liked the message. No reply. 2 weeks later, I was scrolling through my feed and saw a photo of everyone at a restaurant. Balloons, drinks, family all around the table, cake with "Congrats, Andrew" written across it. My cousins were there. Even some family friends I hadn't seen in years. Everyone looked happy, except me, because I wasn't there. Again, I called mom that night. "Was there some kind of dinner?" She sounded distracted. "Oh, that. It was last minute. Andrew's boss picked the place. You wouldn't have liked it. Loud music, fancy food. Still would have been nice to be asked," I said. She sighed like I was being difficult. "Aaron, please don't start. It was his night. You know how you get around crowds?" That was her way of saying we didn't want you there. I didn't push it. I just said okay and hung up. After that, I started showing up less. They didn't notice. The few times I did visit, I felt like a guest in my own family. They'd talk over me, crack inside jokes, and forget I was sitting right there. Thanksgiving that year sealed it for me. I drove over with a pie I'd bought on the way because mom always said not to bring anything homemade. We already have enough. The house smelled like turkey and cinnamon. Everyone was laughing in the dining room when I walked in. Mom greeted me with a quick hug and said, "Oh, good, you made it." We just started setting the table. The table was already full. 8 seats, all taken. Andrew had his girlfriend next to him. Monica had her husband. My parents at the ends. A couple of cousins filled the rest. I stood there for a second, holding the pie. Where should I sit? Oh, Mom looked around like she just noticed there was no space. "There's a folding chair in the garage. You can grab that." So I did. I found an old chair, dusted it off, and pulled it up to the corner. A plastic plate on my lap, a folding chair at the corner. That was my place in the house. It sounds small, but it said everything. Nobody offered to make space. Nobody said, "Hey, let's squeeze in." And they just kept eating, passing dishes around like I was invisible. At one point, Monica laughed about something Andrew said and added, "Aaron, you wouldn't get it. It's an inside joke." She was right. I didn't get it. I didn't get why I kept showing up. After dinner, I helped clear the table because that's what I always did. Nobody said thank you. When I was washing dishes, I heard Andrew in the other room telling mom that his boss wanted to see family photos from the party, and she said, "I'll send the good ones. You know, the ones with everyone." Everyone. I left early that night. Told them I had work in the morning. Mom gave me leftovers like she was checking a box, and Dad said, "Drive safe," without looking up from the game on TV. In the car, I sat for a minute before turning the key. I realized I could stop showing up entirely, and it wouldn't change anything for them. Over the next few months, I tried calling less. The few times I did, conversations lasted under 5 minutes. "How's work?" "Fine." "How's Andrew?" "Busy." "How's Monica?" "Planning something." Then they'd hang up. Sometimes I'd get a random text from Monica. "Can you help me fix my laptop?" Or, "Do you still have that camera?" Never a "How are you?" Just when she needed something. One weekend, Mom invited me to Sunday lunch. I thought maybe things were improving. When I got there, it was just my parents. Andrew and Monica couldn't make it. It felt like they only asked me because the house would have been too quiet otherwise. Dad spent most of the meal talking about Andrew's new car. Mom talked about Monica's new kitchen remodel. Nobody asked about me. I mentioned a short film project I'd been working on, but Mom interrupted halfway through with, "That's nice, dear," and went back to talking about the color of Monica's cabinets. That was the last family meal I went to for a while. I started spending more weekends on set, picking up extra hours, working with people who actually cared about the same things I did. My coworkers didn't treat me like background noise. They noticed when I wasn't around. One Sunday afternoon, my phone buzzed with a call from Mom. She never called just to talk, so I almost didn't answer. But I did. "Aaron, thank God," she said right away. Like something was wrong. "We really need your help. It's Andrew's company event tonight, and the videographer canceled last minute. You're good with that stuff, right?" I paused. "You mean like filming it?" "Yes, just recording some parts. Nothing too fancy. You've got that nice camera, don't you?" "Yeah," I said slowly. "But isn't this a work event? Why would I—" "Oh, come on, sweetheart. It's family. And Andrew's stressed. You know how he gets. We'd really appreciate it." She said it like it was a small favor, like she was asking me to help move a chair. I didn't have anything planned that night, so I said fine. Maybe this was her attempt to include me again. Maybe helping would smooth things over. I packed my gear and drove over to the event center. It was one of those places with glass doors and overpriced appetizers. I spotted Andrew right away. New suit, big smile, surrounded by coworkers. Mom waved from a corner table when she saw me. "There's my cameraman," she said. I laughed a little, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. Andrew barely looked up. "Hey, man, you got your stuff?" "Yeah." "Cool. We need shots of people mingling. The speeches, then the group photo. Make sure you get the company banner in the background." I blinked. "Wait, I thought you wanted me here as family, not staff." He frowned like I'd just said something stupid. "You're helping out, aren't you?" "It's the same thing." Before I could respond, Mom patted my arm. "Don't make a fuss, Aaron. You're good at this. You'll make us proud." So that was it. I wasn't invited as family. I was brought in as free labor. I started filming because honestly, walking out would have caused a scene. I moved around the room taking shots of people talking, laughing, shaking hands. Nobody looked at me. Nobody said thanks. Andrew's coworkers assumed I was hired help. They called me the camera guy. When the speeches started, I stood by the back wall, camera on the tripod. Andrew took the mic and talked about teamwork, leadership, and family values. That last part almost made me laugh. He thanked everyone for coming. Everyone but me. During dinner, I packed my equipment and sat for a minute near the exit to check my footage. Mom came over with a plate. "Here, you should eat something," she said. I looked down. It was half-picked leftovers. "I'm fine," I said. "You did such a good job," she added quickly, as if that fixed anything. Andrew's boss was so impressed. "You'll send the files tomorrow, right?" I stared at her. "So I'm just the videographer now?" She gave that nervous little laugh she always does when she's uncomfortable. "Oh, Aaron, don't be dramatic. You know what I meant." "You." "I know exactly what you meant," I said quietly. She opened her mouth to respond, but someone called her name from across the room. She smiled, patted my arm again, and walked away. After they finished eating, Andrew announced a group photo. I picked up my camera, expecting to take it. He waved me over. No, you're in the shot. Somebody else can take it." A coworker glanced at me. "Who's that?" "My brother," Andrew said, already turning away. "He's doing the video." That told me everything. I let the camera hang and stepped back. They took the picture. I stayed out of frame. When the lights came up, I packed my things and walked out. Nobody stopped me. Nobody said goodbye. Driving home, I felt more stupid than angry. I'd spent the night helping them look good, literally making them look good, and they couldn't even treat me like part of the family. I got home, dumped the footage onto my laptop, and stared at it for a while. Every shot looked perfect. Clean, professional, exactly what they wanted. I'd already reformatted the SD cards when I left the venue. The laptop was the only copy. Then I selected all the files and deleted them. Not out of revenge, not to be petty, just because I didn't owe them anything. Mom called the next morning. "Aaron, Andrew said he can't find the videos anywhere." "I deleted them," I said. There was a pause. "Why would you do that?" "Because I wasn't working for him. I was helping family. And family doesn't treat people like hired help." She sighed heavily. "You're overreacting again." "Then you can find someone else next time," I said, and hung up. That was the first time I didn't feel guilty for saying no. They didn't reach out again for a while after that. No texts, no calls. I figured they were giving me the silent treatment. And honestly, I preferred it that way. After that night at Andrew's event, I kept my distance for real this time. No more pretending things were fine. No more trying to be useful just to earn a spot at the table. I worked, slept, and spent weekends fixing up old cameras or doing small freelance gigs for local businesses. It was quiet, but it was mine. That's when I met Luna. It wasn't some movie moment. I was filming a small charity event for a local animal shelter. She was there running the adoption booth, trying to convince people to take home cats that looked like they'd been through wars. She had this calm, practical energy. Talked fast, but listened twice as much. When I filmed her explaining the shelter's needs, she didn't act fake for the camera. She just talked like a real person. That stuck with me. When I packed up, she waved me over. "Hey, camera guy, you never introduced yourself," she said. "Aaron," I told her. "Luna," she said. "You should have told me to fix my hair before you filmed." I shrugged. It looked fine. That made her laugh, and she said, "You're honest. I like that." We started talking after that. She'd bring up random stuff. Movies, animals, small things about her day. It was easy. No guessing what she meant. No walking on eggshells. When I mentioned my family once, she didn't pry, just said, "Sounds like they don't really get you." and left it at that. A few weeks later, she invited me over for dinner. She made pasta that was way too spicy, and we both ended up laughing and drinking milk out of the carton to fix it. It felt normal, something I didn't realize I'd been missing. Over time, she became the person I actually looked forward to talking to. We went on walks after work, shared dumb YouTube videos, talked about things we wanted to do someday. For the first time, I didn't feel like an outsider trying to fit in. About 6 months in, she introduced me to her family. I wasn't sure what to expect, but they were the total opposite of mine. Her dad shook my hand like he meant it. Her mom made enough food for 10 people. They asked about my job, my projects, my interests, not out of politeness, but because they actually cared. When Luna's mom found out I was a cameraman, she said, "We need more people who notice things other people miss." That line stuck with me. I started spending weekends with them sometimes, helping fix things around their house, watching movies, joining their game nights. It felt strange at first, being included without having to earn it. One night, Luna's dad said, "You fit right in," and I had to look away for a second because I didn't know how to react. Meanwhile, I hadn't spoken to my family in months. No calls, no texts, and it didn't feel wrong. It felt peaceful. We got engaged 2 years later. I proposed in the simplest way possible, just us on a walk, the same path we'd taken 100 times. She said yes like it was obvious. No tears, no grand speeches, just a big grin and a hug that said everything. When we started planning the wedding, we both agreed it should be small. Not because of money, but because we didn't want it to feel like a show. Just the people who'd been there for us, the ones who showed up when it mattered. One evening, while we were writing out the guest list, Luna looked up and said, "What about your family?" I didn't answer right away. Part of me thought I should at least try. Send an invite. Make peace. Do the right thing. That's what people always say, right? Weddings bring families together. But then I thought about standing in the back of Andrew's event hall, holding a camera while they laughed and toasted. I thought about that Thanksgiving, sitting in a folding chair with a plastic plate. I thought about Monica's wedding and Mom's words, "You'd be uncomfortable anyway." "No," I said finally. "I don't want them there." Luna nodded like she already expected that. "Good. I want the day to be about people who love you, not people who just share your last name." We left it at that. The next few weeks were spent planning, choosing a small outdoor venue, sending invites to coworkers, friends, and a few neighbors who'd become like family. It wasn't stressful. It was actually fun. Every time we checked something off the list, it felt like building a life from scratch, one that was real and ours. Word gets around fast in my family. You could sneeze in one end of town, and by dinner, someone's aunt would call to ask if you were sick. So when Luna and I started sending out wedding invitations, I knew it wouldn't stay quiet for long. A cousin spotted our venue tag on Instagram and told her, so Mom texted, "Heard you're getting married. When are you sending our invites?" That was it. No congratulations, no, "we're happy for you." Just a demand, like she was confirming a reservation. I looked at the message for a while before replying. There aren't any. I locked my phone and went back to what I was doing. 2 hours later, the group chat that had been dead for months lit up like a Christmas tree. Mom, "I don't understand. You're getting married and you're not inviting your own family?" Dad, "This is beyond disrespectful." Monica, "Wow. I knew you were distant, but this? That's low." Andrew, "Guess he finally found someone as cold as he is." I didn't reply. They kept going. Guilt trips, fake concern, everything they were good at. Mom wrote paragraphs about family unity and how I'd regret isolating myself. Monica said I was embarrassing the family name. Dad threw in a few lines about how I was being ungrateful after everything we've done for you. Everything they'd done for me? I almost laughed. Luna came into the room holding a plate of food and saw my face. What happened? They found out. She sat beside me, glanced at the messages, and shook her head. They're not upset about missing your wedding. They're upset they won't have pictures to post. That was exactly it. My family didn't care about being there for me. I muted the chat and went back to planning. Every time my phone buzzed, I ignored it. It wasn't anger anymore, just indifference. I didn't owe them anything. A few days later, Mom called. I let it go to voicemail, but I listened. Her voice was trembling, like she'd been rehearsing. "Aaron, this isn't you. You're letting Luna turn you against us. We're your parents. We deserve to be part of your big day." Deserve. That word again. Then another voicemail from Dad. "You can be mad all you want, but this family doesn't turn its back on blood." I deleted both messages. Monica took her drama to Facebook. She posted one of those vague rants with no names, but all the clues. Funny how some people forget who raised them. Hope their little party goes well without their real family. Andrew liked it within 5 minutes. Someone must have told them it looked bad because a day later, Mom posted a "family is forever" quote on a floral background. That got a bunch of sympathy comments. The thing is, my family had always been good at managing appearances. They were less good at being decent behind closed doors. Meanwhile, Luna and I kept working on our wedding. We picked a small outdoor venue near a vineyard. Quiet, simple, nothing fancy. Our guest list was short: friends, co-workers, and a few neighbors who'd become like family. People who'd actually been there through the ups and downs. One evening, while setting the seating chart, Luna said, "It's nice knowing every person on this list actually wants to be here." "Yeah," I said. No fake smiles. The week before the wedding, I got one last text from Monica. "You're making a huge mistake. People will talk." I typed back, "Let them." The wedding day came, and it was everything I'd hoped for. The weather was perfect. Clear skies, soft breeze. The ceremony was short, heartfelt. My best friend officiated. Luna looked calm, beautiful, and real. There wasn't a single moment that felt forced. When I looked around, I saw people smiling because they were happy for us, not because they wanted to look good in pictures. After everything, that simple fact meant more than anything. During the reception, one of my co-workers came up grinning. "Hey man, you need to see this." He handed me his phone. It was open to Facebook. There it was, my family's meltdown in full display. Mom had written a long post about children losing their way and forgiveness. Monica had doubled down with another one, saying she couldn't believe her own brother would exclude his family. And Andrew posted a picture from their dinner that night, captioned, "Some people forget where they came from." But what made me laugh, actually laugh, were the comments. Someone replied under Monica's post, "Didn't you not invite him to your wedding?" Under Andrew's photo, someone else commented, "Karma's funny like that." And Mom's post had a handful of people politely calling her out. "Maybe let him be happy?" I handed the phone back, shaking my head. They'll never get it. Luna squeezed my hand. They don't have to. For the first time, I didn't need their approval. The rest of the evening went perfectly. We danced under strings of lights, ate good food, and laughed until we were exhausted. There were no awkward silences, no fake smiles, no weight hanging over me. When the night ended, we walked to the edge of the vineyard. The sky was full of stars, and everything was quiet except the sound of people laughing behind us. I looked at Luna and said, "You know, I used to think I'd always feel like the odd one out." She smiled. "Not anymore." She was right. For once, I wasn't trying to earn a place. I already had one. I didn't check my phone the rest of the night. I didn't care what they were posting or saying or pretending to feel. The only thing that mattered was standing there with her, knowing I finally built something that wasn't temporary. They could have their version of family. I'd found mine. After the wedding, things went quiet for about a week. Too quiet. I knew it wouldn't last. When people like my family lose control, silence isn't peace. It's the pause before they try something bigger. It started with the calls. Dozens of them. First from Mom, then Monica, then even Dad, which almost never happened. I didn't answer any. The voicemails all sounded the same, guilt mixed with threats. Mom's voice cracked in one, "Aaron, you're my son. I don't know what you think you're doing, but you're going to regret cutting us out like this. Nobody will love you like family does." Monica's was sharper. "Congrats on your sad little backyard party. Hope it was worth it." And Dad, always the serious one, left a short message. "You'll come around eventually. You always do." I deleted them all. I didn't respond to a single one. I wasn't angry. Just done. Luna and I started settling back into normal life. We were renting a small place outside town. A quiet street, good neighbors, big trees. For a few days, it felt peaceful again. We'd cook dinner together, sit on the porch, talk about plans. I started thinking maybe, just maybe, they'd finally give up. Then, a Wednesday morning, everything changed. I was working from home, editing a short film project on my laptop. Luna was in the kitchen, humming while she made breakfast. Around 10, there was a knock at the door. Hard and fast, not polite. We both froze. "You expecting someone?" she asked. "No," I said. Another round of knocks, louder this time. Then Mom's voice. "Aaron, sweetheart, open the door. We just want to talk." My stomach dropped. I looked through the peephole. There they were. Mom, Dad, Monica, and Andrew, lined up like some uncomfortable family portrait. Mom was holding a casserole dish like it was a peace offering. "Unbelievable," I muttered. Luna's face went pale. "They actually showed up?" "Yeah." I cracked the window just enough to be heard. "What are you doing here?" Mom smiled too wide. We wanted to see you, honey. We're worried. You've been ignoring us. I'm not ignoring anyone, I said. I just don't want to talk. Dad stepped closer, voice hard. You can't just erase your family, Aaron. That's not how this works. I kept my tone calm. It's exactly how it works. You made your choices. I made mine. Monica scoffed. Wow, she really did a number on you, she said, nodding toward Luna, who was standing behind me. You were never this cold before she came along. Luna didn't say anything, just folded her arms. Mom's fake smile started to crack. Don't talk like that, Monica, she said, but her eyes were still burning holes through me. Aaron, we came to make things right. Let us in. No, I said simply. Dad's jaw clenched. Enough of this nonsense. We're not leaving until you come out here and talk to us like a man. Luna leaned close and whispered, They're not going to leave, are they? No, I said quietly. They're not. Mom's voice got louder. This isn't you, Aaron. You're letting her poison you against us. I opened the window a little more and looked her straight in the eyes. You did that all on your own. The smile vanished. Monica muttered something under her breath. Andrew, who'd been scrolling through his phone the whole time, finally looked up. This is pathetic, man. You're acting like a kid. We just want to talk. You want to talk, I said, when it's convenient for you. The rest of the time, I don't exist. That must have hit a nerve, because Mom's voice turned sharp. You're going to regret this, Aaron. You'll regret cutting off your own blood. I already did, I said. Years ago. She gasped like I'd slapped her. That's when Dad lost his patience. He stepped onto the porch, pounding on the door. Enough, he shouted. We're not leaving until you come out. Then you'll be standing there a long time, I said. The banging got louder. Luna grabbed my arm. Aaron, call someone. I shook my head, still watching them through the peephole. Not yet. Andrew joined in, slamming his hand against the siding. Monica started yelling something about family doesn't treat each other like this. Mom was crying now, or pretending to. It was hard to tell. When I heard the doorframe creak, I finally turned to Luna. Call the police. She didn't hesitate. While she was on the phone, I stood my ground between her and the door. My heart was pounding, but I wasn't scared. I was just done letting them dictate how things went. Outside, Dad's voice roared again. We're not leaving without you, Aaron! Then get comfortable, I said. There was a loud crack, wood splintering. They were trying to force the handle. Officers are on their way, Luna said from behind me, voice steady but shaking slightly. The pounding stopped a minute later. I peeked out the window. They were standing there pretending nothing had happened. Mom holding that casserole again, Dad glaring at the ground, Monica rubbing her arms like she was cold, Andrew scrolling his phone again like none of it mattered. Then, sirens. The police cruiser pulled up, tires crunching against the gravel. 2 officers got out, a man and a woman. The second they saw the scene, you could tell they knew exactly what kind of situation this was. I opened the door just enough to step outside, keeping my hands visible. Morning, officers, I said. Thanks for coming. The woman nodded. We got a call about a disturbance. Everything all right here? Before I could answer, Mom rushed forward, casserole still in hand. This is our son, she said quickly. We were just trying to talk to him. He's being manipulated by that woman. She pointed toward the house where Luna was visible through the curtain. The officer's face stayed neutral. So you were the ones knocking and yelling? Mom stammered. We weren't yelling. We just needed to talk. Dad stepped in. We have a right to see him. He's our son. The male officer pulled out a notepad. Sir, it doesn't work like that. He's an adult. You don't have the right to enter his home without permission. Mom tried to interrupt, but he held up a hand. If you keep harassing him, he can press charges. I took a breath. Actually, I want to. Everything went quiet. Mom's mouth fell open. Dad's face turned red. Monica froze. Andrew finally looked up, eyes wide. You don't mean that, Mom said, voice shaking. I do, I said. Trespassing and attempted forced entry. The officers separated us, took statements, and told them to leave immediately. Luna came out once things calmed down. She slipped her hand into mine while I finished signing the report. As they drove off, I watched them through the window. Mom was crying again. Dad was yelling at her. Monica slammed the car door. Andrew just stared at his phone. When the police left, the house felt quiet again. Really quiet this time. Luna leaned her head on my shoulder. You okay? Yeah, I said. Finally. The officers documented everything and explained that immediate arrest wasn't required. The case would be referred to the DA. I contacted my attorney the next morning. He filed for a temporary restraining order, which the court granted the same day. A process server formerly served my parents, Andrew and Monica, on Friday. The order barred contact and required them to stay away from our home. After the confrontation, we took 3 days for ourselves, just a quiet cabin 2 hours away. No crowds, no calls. Before we left, I spent half a day tightening the house security. New locks, motion lights, and small cameras linked to my phone. Luna teased me for going full detective mode, but she understood. The first 2 nights were perfect. Hikes, old movies, sleeping in. On the third night, I finally felt like everything had settled. 2 nights later, Sunday at 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected. Living room. A second later, alarm triggered. Front door. Luna woke instantly. What's going on? Someone's in the house. I opened the camera feed. The image shook, then focused on a man moving across the living room. Tall, familiar. Andrew. He was inside my house. He was already violating the restraining order they'd been served 2 days earlier. I hit the panic option on the app. The alarm shrieked through the speakers. On the screen, Andrew spun around, shouting, trying to cover his face. Luna's voice was barely a whisper. He broke in? Yeah, probably Dad's idea. The feed froze as it switched to emergency mode. We waited, watching the flashing red alarm active banner. Dispatch confirmed units were en route. A cruiser pulled up about 8 minutes after the siren tripped. We didn't sleep again that night. When we got home the next afternoon, the front door was taped off. An officer met us at the driveway. Mr. Walker, everything's contained. What happened? Your brother was still here when we arrived. Claimed he was checking the house for you, but the footage says otherwise. He's in custody. Luna frowned. Why would he do that? The officer flipped his notes. He told us your father asked him to teach you a lesson. We found matching texts on his phone. We'll be contacting your father next. Inside, nothing was stolen. Andrew had tried to pry open the office safe, but stopped when the siren went off. The police took fingerprints and copied the footage. Watching it later, I saw him pacing, muttering, panicking as the noise hit. He looked desperate, not angry. 2 days later, the officer called back. Andrew was charged with attempted burglary, destruction of property, and violating the restraining order. He'd confessed that Dad offered him money to go talk some sense into Aaron. The text confirmed it. The story spread through town fast. At first, people said it was a misunderstanding, until the DA filed the probable cause affidavit on Monday. It included redacted screenshots of texts between Andrew and Dad that investigators pulled from Andrew's phone. A neighbor grabbed the PDF from the court portal and posted the images in the community group. Defenders went quiet. Mom posted online that it was blown out of proportion. Monica said Andrew just wanted to reconnect. But nobody believed them. The comments filled with people who'd seen the footage or heard the siren that night. Their public image crumbled overnight. The case moved quickly. Andrew took a plea deal. Community service, probation, and GPS monitoring. Dad was charged with aiding and abetting the attempt. He paid a fine and got a suspended sentence. Both now had criminal records. Mom skipped the hearings. Monica moved away. I didn't attend any of it. My lawyer handled the paperwork. The week after the ruling, my phone was silent. No messages, no voicemails. For once, the quiet felt peaceful. We finished installing cameras properly. Front porch, backyard, every entrance. Luna repainted the doorframe where the police tape had been. Our life settled into small things again. Groceries, coffee, her sketching while I edited footage. It finally felt like home. 3 months later, we hosted a small barbecue. A few coworkers, neighbors, and the people who called the police that night came. They joked about being part of a real-life crime show. I grilled, Luna handled sides, everyone laughed too loud, ate too slow. It was the kind of noise that didn't drain you. As the evening wound down, one of my coworkers lifted a soda. To new beginnings, he said. I looked around. The lights strung across the fence, laughter drifting into the trees. No pretending, no tension, just people who cared enough to show up. Later, while cleaning up, Luna asked, "Do you ever think about them anymore?" "Not really," I said. "Sometimes I wonder if they think about what they lost." She smiled. "They probably don't get it." "Yeah," I said, "but I do." We sat on the porch as the lights dimmed. For the first time in my life, the word family didn't sound heavy. It just felt right. I'd built mine from scratch, and no one was ever taking it away again. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way. Story 6. Parents took a second mortgage. For my brother, now they want me to give up my wedding for him. Hey Reddit, my brother's the golden child. I'm the wallet. I paid to keep my parents' house standing. But when my wedding came up, they tried to pull the dumbest stunt yet. Let me back up and explain. I'm Ethan, 27 male. I'm engaged, my wedding is in April, and I should be stressing about flowers or playlists. Instead, I'm dealing with my family, mainly my older brother Kyle, 30 male, my mom, and my grandma. They've spent my entire life acting like Kyle's the sun, and the rest of us are supposed to orbit around him. The funny part? I wasn't the only one who saw it. My sister Emily, 29 female, grew up in the same house, and she's been calling out the favoritism for as long as I can remember. The difference is, they never listened to her either. When I turned 8, I got a board game for my birthday. Kyle was 11, and for his birthday that same year, he got a brand new mountain bike. I remember asking Mom why his present was way bigger than mine. Her response, "He's older, Ethan. He has more responsibilities. He deserves it." Emily, who was 10 at the time, cut in, "That doesn't even make sense. What responsibility comes with riding a bike?" Grandma immediately snapped, "Don't talk back, young lady. Your brother is special." That was her favorite line. Anytime Kyle broke something, anytime he failed at something, anytime Emily or I asked a question, it always came back to, "He's special." You don't understand. A year later, I saved up allowance for months to buy an RC car. I was so proud of it. Kyle decided it would be hilarious to launch it off the porch steps. It shattered on impact. I cried, of course, and went to Mom. She sighed and said, "You should have shared nicer with your brother." Emily was right there. "Shared nicer? He destroyed it, Mom. He should replace it." Grandma's face twisted like Emily had said the worst thing in the world. "How dare you talk about your brother that way?" He didn't mean it. So Kyle walked off. No punishment, no consequences. I lost my car, Emily got scolded, and life moved on like it always did. Kyle first, everyone else last. By the time we hit our teens, the pattern was set in stone. Kyle came home with a report card full of B's and C's. Mom declared it a victory, said she was proud of him for trying hard, and took us all out for dinner. A few weeks later, I brought home straight A's. Emily did too. We got a quick, "Good job, that's expected." That was it. Emily muttered under her breath that night, "So Kyle gets steak for being average, and we get a pat on the head for working our asses off." I laughed, but there was no point saying it louder. Mom and Grandma never cared to hear it. Then came the car situation. When I turned 16, I was allowed to use the family car sometimes. But Kyle always got priority. One weekend, he dented the bumper pulling out of a parking lot. He tossed the keys on the counter and went upstairs like nothing happened. The next morning, Mom told me I needed to stop being so mouthy and set a better example. Emily stood up for me. "He dented the car, Mom. Why are you blaming Ethan?" Mom shot her down. "You don't know what you're talking about. Your brother is under pressure." That phrase, "under pressure," was just another excuse on the list. When Kyle was supposed to be the first in our family to graduate from a big university, my parents took out a second mortgage to pay for his tuition and some startup idea he bragged about. 2 years later, he dropped out. The startup never happened. The money? Gone. I asked what the plan was now. Grandma jumped in immediately. "Don't kick him while he's down. He's still figuring things out." Emily rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. "You just flushed a house worth of money down the toilet, and you're telling Ethan not to be upset? Unreal." Mom told her to mind her tone. Meanwhile, Kyle stayed at home, slept in, and came up with a new career plan every few months that never went anywhere. When I finished school and landed a decent job, Mom and Dad were on the edge of losing the house. That second mortgage was crushing them. I stepped in. I started sending them $900 a month to help keep the place afloat. Not because I had to, but because I didn't want to see my parents homeless. Emily told me not to do it. She said, "You're just going to enable them the same way they enabled Kyle." She wasn't wrong. But at the time, I felt like I was doing the right thing. The gratitude never came. Some months I didn't even get a thank you. I wasn't added to the deed. I didn't get a promise that the money would come back to me someday. I was just the dependable one, the reliable wallet. Meanwhile, Kyle kept living there rent-free most months. Aside from the occasional $300 he'd toss them when he felt like it, Grandma still called him her special boy. Mom kept making excuses. Dad hid behind his newspaper. Emily stayed out of the house more and more as she got older. She told me once, "The only way to survive this family is to stop expecting them to change." She was right, but I wasn't ready to admit it back then. About 6 weeks before the wedding, Mom texted me, "Come over, we need to talk. It's important." No details, no context. With my family, important usually meant something for Kyle. When I pulled up, Emily's car was already there. That was a surprise. If Mom wanted her here too, It wasn't going to be a normal conversation. I walked in, and the scene looked staged. The TV was muted, which almost never happens in that house. Dad sat in his recliner, flipping through the same envelope for 5 minutes. Grandma sat on the couch like she owned the place, her cane leaning against her leg, and Kyle was sprawled in the middle like it was his throne. Mom stood with her arms crossed, clearly waiting for me. Emily sat on the far chair, arms folded, face tight. She gave me a look like, "Just wait until you hear this crap." "Sit down, Ethan," Mom said. Her voice had that fake sweetness she always used when she was about to say something awful. I sat, glanced at Emily, and braced myself. Mom started with, "You know how much we want this wedding to be special." I cut her off. "For me and Sam, right?" "Just making sure." Kyle smirked like he knew a secret. Grandma leaned forward, smiling that smug smile she's perfected over 70 years. Mom pushed on. "Since it's such a beautiful event, maybe it could be about more than one couple. Maybe it could also be a chance for your brother to—" Grandma jumped in. "Family should share joy. That's only right." Kyle finally said it. "I want to propose to Rachel at your wedding. During the reception speeches. Imagine how perfect it'll be. Everyone clapping, everyone watching," I laughed. Not a happy laugh, just one of those sharp, short ones. "Right. Should I hand you my tux too? Or just step aside so you can marry her on the spot?" Kyle's grin dropped. Mom frowned. Grandma shook her head at me like I was the unreasonable one. Mom said, "Don't be like that. It's just one moment. You'll still have your vows, your dances. Kyle just wants to celebrate love too." Emily finally spoke. "Mom, do you hear yourself? Ethan's paying for this wedding. He's the groom. And you're seriously asking him to let Kyle hijack it?" "Hijack?" Grandma snapped. "What a horrible word. He only wants to be part of the joy." Emily shot back. "He can propose literally anywhere else. Why does it have to be Ethan's wedding?" "Because it's the perfect setting," Kyle said, looking at her like she was dumb. "I don't have the money for some big event. This way I can make it special for Rachel too." I leaned forward. "No, it's not happening. Not in the ceremony, not at the reception, not in the parking lot. Nowhere." Mom's voice got sharper. "Why do you always make things difficult? Kyle is scared Rachel might leave. This could save their relationship." Emily scoffed. "If your relationship depends on stealing someone else's wedding, it's already dead." Grandma turned on her. "Don't you dare talk like that about your brother. He's sensitive. You've always been too harsh, Emily." Emily folded her arms tighter. "No, I've just always been honest." "You don't like honesty when it's not about praising Kyle." I added, "Exactly. And by the way, generous? You want generous? I've been sending you $900 every month to keep this house standing. 900, while he lives here rent-free. And you want to call me selfish because I won't let him turn my wedding into a sideshow?" The room went quiet for a second. Dad shifted in his chair, but didn't look up from his envelopes. Kyle raised his voice. "So what? You're just cutting me out completely? Over 1 minute?" I looked him dead in the eye. "Kyle, you don't need my wedding to make yourself look like a fool. You've been doing that just fine on your own." Grandma gasped like I'd slapped her. "How dare you talk that way in front of your mother and grandmother?" Emily said flatly, "Maybe he wouldn't talk that way if you didn't excuse everything Kyle does." Mom snapped at her. "Don't start, Emily. You're supposed to support your brother." Emily laughed. "Support him? He's 30 years old and still acts like he's 12. Maybe if you stopped babying him, he wouldn't need to crash other people's weddings to feel important." Kyle's face went red. "You're just jealous I get more attention than you ever did." Emily didn't even flinch. "If this is what attention looks like, you can keep it." I stood up. "This conversation is over. I'm not funding your mortgage while you all try to hand my wedding to him. The $900 stops now. Figure it out." Mom looked shocked. "You can't do that. We need your help." I shrugged. "Then maybe you should have thought twice before siding with Kyle's circus act." Grandma's eyes narrowed. "You'll regret this, Ethan. Family comes first." "Yeah," I said, heading for the door. "And it's time I put my future family first. Sam and me. The rest of you can live with your choices." As I left, Emily got up too. She said over her shoulder, "For once, I actually agree with Ethan 100%. You should all be embarrassed." The silence in that room was louder than any yelling. When I pulled into my driveway that night, Kyle's car rolled up right behind me. He didn't even give me time to get inside before he was out of the car, slamming the door, storming across the lawn like he was the one who'd been wronged. I didn't say a word at first. I unlocked my front door, stepped inside, and left it open. He followed me in without asking, which is pretty much how he does everything. No permission needed, because in his head the world is already his. The second the door shut, he started yelling. You ruined everything. Do you even realize what you've done? Rachel was expecting something big, and now I've got nothing. I kicked off my shoes and walked into the kitchen like it was just another Tuesday. You could always propose at Taco Bell, I said. They've got a dollar menu. Fits your budget. That set him off. He slammed his hands on my counter. You think this is funny? You embarrassed me in front of Mom and Grandma. You turned them against me. I grabbed a glass of water and leaned against the fridge. No, Kyle, you embarrassed yourself. And Mom and Grandma? They didn't turn. They've always been on your side. The difference is, I finally stopped playing along. He jabbed a finger at me. You're financially blackmailing them, cutting off the money just to get your way. That's low, even for you. I almost laughed. Blackmail? That would mean I'm threatening to expose something. I'm just stopping payments. You know, like a normal person does when they get tired of being used. He paced like a caged animal. Do you know what's going to happen now? Mom and Dad can't afford the mortgage without you. You're going to make them lose the house. All because you can't share a stupid spotlight for 1 minute. I set the glass down and looked him dead in the eye. You mean the house they almost lost because of you? The house they took a second mortgage on so you could play entrepreneur for 2 years before dropping out? That house? Yeah, not my problem anymore. He went quiet for half a second, then his voice went up again. Rachel is going to leave me, Ethan. You don't get it. This was my last chance to prove myself. Now she's going to think I'm a loser. I tilted my head. Kyle, if she's leaving, it's not because you didn't hijack my wedding. It's because you're 30 years old, still living at home, and your entire career plan is waiting for other people to hand you opportunities. A ring won't fix pathetic. His face went red. You're jealous. You've always been jealous because Mom and Grandma love me more. Admit it. That actually made me laugh. Jealous? Of what? Watching you blow thousands of dollars and end up living in your childhood bedroom at 30? Yeah, that's every little brother's dream. He slammed his fist on the counter again. You think you're better than me just because you got lucky with your job. No, Kyle, I said calmly. I think I'm better than you because I actually work. Because when I screw up, I fix it myself instead of crying to Mom and Grandma until someone bails me out. He shook his head like he couldn't believe me. You're unbelievable. You've always had it easy. You don't know what it's like to have expectations on you. That one almost made me choke. Expectations? Are you serious? Your expectations were what? Passing your classes? Showing up once in a while? Maybe not wrecking the car? Meanwhile, I was expected to cover for you, take the blame for you, and then send $900 a month to clean up after you. Don't talk to me about expectations. He pointed at me again. If you don't let me do this, I'll show up anyway. I'll grab the mic and I'll propose in front of everyone. You won't be able to stop me. I didn't even flinch. You try it, Kyle, and I'll have you tossed out so fast you won't even make it to, will you marry me? He sneered. You wouldn't dare. He sneered. You wouldn't dare. I'd dare, I said, leaning back on the counter. And Sam's fully on board. You try it, you're out. No second chances. He stared at me like he couldn't believe I'd actually thought ahead. You're pathetic. Using muscle to solve your problems. Rachel is going to hate you for this. No, she's going to hate you, I said flatly. Because you're trying to guilt trip your little brother into sacrificing the biggest day of his life so you can band-aid a failing relationship. He didn't know what to say for once. He just stood there, fists clenching and unclenching, breathing heavy. Finally, he muttered, You'll regret this. You'll regret cutting me out. I walked to the door, opened it, and gestured. Out. My house, my rules. He stomped past me, muttering under his breath about how ungrateful I was, how I owed him, how the family would never forgive me. I shut the door behind him and locked it. Through the window, I watched him sit in his car, pounding the steering wheel before peeling off down the street. I didn't feel relief. I just felt tired, because I knew one thing for sure. If he was this angry already, he wasn't done. And neither were Mom and Grandma. The morning after Kyle barged into my house, my phone started buzzing before I'd even finished brushing my teeth. It was Mom. I let it ring out. She called again. Then Grandma. Then Mom again. I finally picked up on the third round just to get it over with. Ethan, Mom started, her voice already sharp. What on earth were you thinking? You made your grandmother cry last night. Do you even care what this is doing to her? I sat down at the table, put her on speaker, and rubbed my forehead. Mom, Kyle tried to hijack my wedding. He showed up at my house screaming at me. And you're worried about Grandma crying? She's your grandmother, Mom snapped. You can't talk to her the way you do. She's hurt. She's hurt because she wanted me to hand over my wedding like a party favor, I said. That's not my problem. Her voice dropped into that guilt trip tone she's perfected. Family should be about sacrifice. You've always been so cold about these things. Kyle just wants a moment. You don't lose anything by letting him have it. I laughed once. Not lose anything? Mom, I lose the one day that's supposed to be about me and Sam. I lose respect. I lose patience. I lose $900 a month while I'm at it. Her voice spiked. There it is again. You keep throwing the money in our faces. You're weaponizing it. I leaned back. No, I'm stopping it. That's not a weapon. It's me refusing to keep paying for Kyle's lifestyle. She huffed. You'll regret this. When we lose the house, it'll be on your conscience. That was it for me. No, Mom. It'll be on Kyle's. You took out a second mortgage for him, not me. You kept bailing him out. You made your choice. I'm making mine. She hung up on me. Not long after, Grandma's name popped up. Against my better judgment, I answered. Her voice was watery and weak. Ethan, I don't understand why you're being so cruel. Your brother is sensitive. He just wanted a chance to be happy. Why can't you let him? Because it's my wedding, Grandma, not his. You're young. You'll have other days. Kyle might not. That one stunned me. So I'm supposed to ruin mine because maybe he can't get his life together? That's insane. She kept going. You've always been difficult. Kyle was the good boy. You were stubborn, always questioning, always making trouble. I felt my jaw clench. Are you really rewriting history now? Kyle wrecked the car, not me. Kyle dropped out, not me. Kyle's 30 and still mooching, not me. And you're still sitting here calling him the good one? Her voice sharpened. Watch your tongue, Ethan. I've done nothing but love you. That was my breaking point. Love? You told Sam, before we were even engaged, that I was trouble, and she should keep her eyes open. Don't deny it. She told me everything. There was silence on the line, then she sputtered, That's not how I meant it. No, I cut her off. That's exactly how you meant it. And you know what? That was the last straw. You don't get to lecture me about family while you've spent my whole life undermining me and praising Kyle for breathing. She started crying again, louder this time, calling me ungrateful. I didn't wait for more. I hung up. Sam had been listening from the kitchen. She walked over, put her hand on my shoulder, and said, Good. About time you stopped letting her run your life. I exhaled hard. I shouldn't have let her get under my skin. But I'm done. That's it. No more. Later that evening, Emily texted me. Mom's blowing up my phone too. Guess Kyle ran to her again. I called her back, and she answered with a sigh. You were right yesterday. They're relentless. But I don't blame you for losing it on Grandma. She's been feeding Kyle lies for years. I know, I said. Sam told me some of the crap Grandma said behind my back. That pushed me over. Emily's voice hardened, then let her cry. She made her choice a long time ago. She doesn't get to demand your wedding on top of it. Thanks, I said. It's good to know I'm not crazy. You're not, she replied. Honestly, if they keep pushing, I'm out too. I'm done letting them use us. We hung up, and for the first time that week, I didn't feel completely outnumbered. The next day, Sam and I sat down with the venue coordinator. We gave them a printed rule sheet. No surprise announcements. No unplanned speeches. No exceptions. We also told them we'd hired security specifically to enforce it. Is that really necessary? The coordinator asked. Yes, Sam said firmly before I could. It's very necessary. That night, we sent the same rule sheet to immediate family. Emily texted back a thumbs up. Dad didn't reply. Mom's response was, We'll see. Grandma didn't even bother with words. She just sent a thumbs down emoji. I showed it to Sam and shook my head. This isn't over. She kissed my cheek and said, Then we'll be ready when they try again. The wedding day came faster than I thought it would. Sam and I had picked an outdoor venue with a small pond, simple decorations, and enough space for family without it feeling like a circus. Or at least, that was the hope. Guests started arriving around noon. People from Sam's side showed up on time, dressed sharp, smiling, polite. My side, well, let's just say Grandma wore a dress that looked like it belonged at a royal coronation, and Kyle showed up in a suit that was clearly borrowed and 2 sizes too big. Emily gave me a look as soon as she saw them. It said everything. Get ready. The ceremony itself went off without a hitch. I was nervous, but the second Sam walked down the aisle, I forgot about the background noise. For 20 minutes, it was perfect. The vows, the rings, the kiss. Everything landed the way it was supposed to. It wasn't until the reception started that the tension began to creep back in. The rule sheet was taped behind the bar, just in case. Marcus, my best man, started the speeches. He was funny without going overboard. Then Sam's maid of honor gave hers. Sweet and heartfelt. We were smiling, relaxed. That's when I saw Kyle stand up. He was at the far end of the room, Rachel beside him, looking pale. Grandma was whispering in his ear as he made his way toward the microphone. I stepped forward before he got there. Kyle, sit down. He ignored me. I just need a minute. Just 1 minute. And the coordinator tried to stop him, but Grandma waved her cane like she was Moses parting the Red Sea. Let him speak, she barked. Kyle grabbed the mic. Everyone, I have something important to say. The room went dead silent. All eyes turned to him. I could feel Sam tense beside me, so I cut him off. Loud enough for everyone to hear, I said, Quick PSA, folks. This isn't open mic night. If you didn't pay for the venue, the food, or the rings, sit down. A ripple of laughter ran through the crowd. Kyle's face turned red, but he held the mic tighter. No, listen. This is important. Rachel, I love you and... Rachel stood up so fast her chair screeched. Kyle, stop. He froze. Her voice shook, but she kept going. I told you I didn't want this. I told you not to make a scene, and you still did it. The guests started whispering. Kyle's eyes darted around like he could still salvage it. Babe, just let me finish. No, Rachel said, louder this time. I've told you for weeks I didn't want a public proposal, especially not at someone else's wedding. The answer is no. I'm done. The silence was heavier than the ceremony had been. People gasped. A couple of Sam's cousins actually clapped, and Grandma looked like she'd swallowed a lemon whole. Kyle's face crumpled. He turned toward me, like somehow this was my fault. You ruined this. I shook my head. No, Kyle. You ruined it when you tried to steal a wedding you weren't invited to headline. Don't blame me because she saw through you. More whispers, a few chuckles. Kyle's humiliation was spreading through the room like wildfire. He dropped the mic, the thud echoing through the speakers. He looked like he might swing at me, but before he could take a step, security moved in. 2 guys in suits grabbed him gently but firmly by the arms. You can't do this, he yelled as they pulled him back. I'm family. Exactly, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. And family should know better. That line got actual applause. Guests clapped, laughed, some even cheered. Sam squeezed my hand, grinning for the first time since Kyle stood up. Security escorted him out, and the coordinator calmly picked the mic off the floor. All right, folks, she said with a professional smile. Let's get back to celebrating Ethan and Sam. The crowd broke into cheers. The tension broke like a dam. But of course, Grandma wasn't done. She stood up, cane in hand, voice sharp as glass. You selfish little brat. You humiliated your brother. You're a disgrace. I turned toward her, smiled, and said, Security, please help my grandmother find her Uber. The laughter that followed was louder than the applause had been. Even people from my side who usually kept their mouths shut were shaking their heads and chuckling. Grandma sputtered, called me ungrateful, and stormed out after Kyle. The rest of the reception? Smooth. We danced, we ate. Marcus made fun of my dance moves, and Sam finally relaxed. Every time someone raised a glass, they toasted us. Not Kyle, not Grandma, us. At one point, Emily leaned over and whispered, That was the best shutdown I've ever seen. Worth every penny you spent on security. I laughed. I should have charged tickets. The night ended the way it should have. Sam and I surrounded by friends and the part of my family that actually cared. Kyle was gone, Grandma was fuming somewhere else, and for the first time in months, I felt like the day belonged to us again. Still, as Sam and I left the venue, I knew it wasn't the end. Not with my family. Mom hadn't made her move yet, and if there was one thing I'd learned growing up, it's that Mom never stays quiet for long. The morning after the wedding, my phone lit up before breakfast. Missed calls, voicemails, and a text from Mom about the mortgage. But by noon, Emily texted, Mom's going ballistic. You better call before she drives over to your house. I called back and kept it short. She launched straight into the same speech I'd heard for years. We're behind, the house is at risk, be generous. I told her, calmly this time, that my help ended when they tried to hand my wedding to Kyle, and that the only adult who lives in their house rent-free most months is the one who should start paying. She went icy and hung up. I barely had time to put my phone down before it buzzed again. This time it was a group text. Grandma had sent a long message to the entire family. I cannot believe what Ethan did to poor Kyle yesterday. He embarrassed him in front of Rachel and all those people. He's turned his back on his parents, who gave him everything. Shameful behavior. I don't understand why he is like this. Cousins started chiming in. A few sent the usual, sorry, grandma responses, but then something unexpected happened. Two of my cousins replied, honestly, Kyle was out of line. Ethan and Sam deserve their day. Another wrote, Grandma, maybe this is between them. Let it go. That shut Grandma up for a few hours. Around dinner time, I got a text from Kyle. You embarrassed me. I'll never forgive you. I typed back, you embarrassed yourself. I warned you 100 times. Then I blocked his number. That night, Dad called me. First time in weeks he'd actually called me on his own. His voice was quiet, almost hesitant. Son, I wanted to say, you're right. I paused. Right about what? He sighed. About Kyle. About how we raised him. We should have pushed him harder. Should have made him pay rent years ago. Shouldn't have let your mother and grandma protect him from everything. It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever heard from him. I didn't know what to say, so I just told him, thanks. Meanwhile, Sam and I sat down that night with a spreadsheet. For the first time in years, we budgeted without factoring in that $900 drain. The money was going into savings, toward a down payment for our own house someday. Sam looked at me and said, feels good, doesn't it? And it did. The next week, things got worse for Kyle. My parents, desperate to make the mortgage, told him he had to start contributing. Not just the $300 rent he tossed them when he felt like it, but real money. Utilities, food, the works. Kyle lost it. He told them it was unfair, that he needed time to get on his feet. Dad told him he'd had a decade. Mom told him if he didn't like it, he could leave. Emily filled me in over the phone. He's been sulking in his room for days. Won't talk to anyone except Grandma. He keeps saying you turned everyone against him. Good, I said. Maybe he'll finally realize the world doesn't revolve around him. Emily laughed bitterly. Don't hold your breath. A few days later, Grandma tried one more stunt. She organized a family dinner at her house, invited everyone and wrote, we need to heal these wounds. Ethan owes Kyle an apology. Emily called me right away. Don't even think about going. Don't worry, I said. I wouldn't waste gas on that. Instead, I sent one message to the group chat. There will be no apology. Kyle tried to steal my wedding, and Grandma supported it. If you can't respect boundaries, don't expect me to show up. Silence. Not a single reply. The next morning, Mom sent me a short text. You're destroying this family. I stared at it for a while before typing back, no, Mom. Kyle and Grandma did that a long time ago. I'm just done pretending otherwise. 2 weeks after the wedding, I drove past my parents' house on my way to grab some things from Emily. The front yard looked different. For the first time in years, there was a room for rent sign stuck in the grass. Emily filled me in later. They finally did it. Dad listed the spare room. Mom's not happy, but they don't have a choice. How's Kyle taking it? I asked. She snorted. Like a toddler. He keeps saying it's his house too, and he deserves the space. Dad told him flat out, it's our house. You either pay rent or leave. That shocked me more than anything. Dad actually said it. Within 2 weeks, my parents had a tenant. A quiet college kid moved in, paying full rent and utilities. Kyle complained nonstop about privacy, about strangers in his home. Mom finally told him, that stranger is helping us pay the mortgage. You're not. Emily texted me a play-by-play of his meltdown. I can't lie. It was satisfying. Meanwhile, Grandma tried her last move. One Saturday, she showed up unannounced at my place. She knocked on the door for 5 minutes, then started yelling through the screen. Ethan, open this door right now. You can't avoid me forever. Sam was in the living room. She looked at me and shook her head. I walked over, didn't open the door, and said loud enough for her to hear, Grandma, you need to leave. You're not welcome here. And she yelled back, you broke my heart. You abandoned your brother. You're a bad grandson. I didn't yell. I just said, you chose Kyle. Live with it. Then I closed the blinds. She left a handwritten note in the mailbox, saying I'd regret this when she was gone. I threw it straight in the trash. That same night, Sam printed a wedding photo of us laughing on the dance floor. No Kyle, no Grandma in the background, just us. She framed it and hung it on the wall. This is what matters, she said. And she was right. A few days later, Dad called again. His voice was quieter than usual. I just wanted to say I'm proud of you, son. You did what I never could. You stood up to them. For once, I didn't feel the need to argue. I just said, thanks, Dad. Mom stayed distant. She sent the occasional cold text. Short lines like, hope you're happy, or we're struggling because of you. I stopped replying. Emily, on the other hand, got bolder. She stopped going to Grandma's dinners, stopped answering Kyle's late-night rants, and told Mom directly, I'm done with this favoritism. If you can't respect Ethan, you lose me too. That shook Mom more than anything I said. Suddenly, she wasn't just losing her difficult son, she was losing her daughter too. Kyle, meanwhile, kept spiraling. When the new tenant's rent covered part of the mortgage, Dad told him he had to chip in more for utilities. Kyle exploded again. This isn't fair. You're ganging up on me. Ethan poisoned you against me. No one bought it. Not even Mom this time. Eventually, he started disappearing for days, crashing at Grandma's when she'd let him. But even she seemed tired of him. Emily told me one night, Grandma's complaining that Kyle eats everything in her fridge and never helps with chores. Guess he's her problem now. For once, I didn't feel guilty. Not a bit. A week later, I sent one last group message to the family. Sam and I are building our life. No more surprise announcements, no more guilt trips. If you want to be part of it, be normal. If not, that's fine too. Emily texted me privately right after, best thing you could have said. No one else replied. That weekend, Sam and I sat on the couch looking at that framed wedding photo. She leaned her head on my shoulder and said, You know, we might have lost some family, but we gained peace. I nodded. And that's worth more than $900 a month. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the backup wallet, the afterthought, the one told to be generous. I was just me, husband to Sam, brother to Emily, son to parents who were finally waking up. Kyle could sulk, Grandma could stew, Mom could stay mad. None of it mattered anymore, because I'd drawn my line, and for once, I wasn't stepping back. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.